I become the Demon King in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 176 Whitebeard Pirate Flag flutters to the Sea of Stars. Great, Peter Parker, squeezed among the onlookers, exclaimed excitedly, when Mr. Edward brings back a more powerful magical creature, I'll definitely tame a handsome and powerful mount. And damn that Pegasus. Hearing this, Gwen Stacy, standing beside him, rolled her eyes and mercilessly poked him in the face. It was just a kick from a Pegasus. Who told you to touch Polly's butt the moment you got up there? She's a girl, she's a mare. Those Western knights on TV can whip her with a whip, but I just touched her and she sent me flying 10 meters. 10 meters, Peter was deeply hurt. Although his physical injuries had long since healed with a teacher's magic, the scars left on his young heart would haunt him for a long time. From then on, Peter vowed to tame a powerful and majestic mount, then ride it to the mare named Polly and show off his prowess. You once looked down on me, but now I'm going to make you unattainable. You immature adolescent boy, Gwen sighed, shaking her head. Who's childish? Peter quickly enlisted the help of others, hugging the seemingly unimportant Ned Leeds and proudly exclaiming, that's called manly romance. Ned, tell me, what kind of mount do you want? No. Ned crossed his arms across his chest, his expression as if he were the only one in the world. The headmaster said a powerful wizard should rely on his own strength. External objects only slow down my wand. 2 months after entering the magic school, Ned finally realized the depth of his magical talent. He could learn any spell instantly, and all magic was at his fingertips. While other students struggled to master the teacher's daily lectures, he read through the entire school's textbooks in one go, mastering every bit of magic. If the teacher hadn't reminded him that he needed to strengthen his foundation and refused to provide him with the next year's textbooks, Ned would have been confident that he could complete 7 years' worth of knowledge in a single year. This kind of joy of learning instantly, as if copying and pasting, is something that even the most incompetent students will never experience. Ned, once easygoing and even a bit timid, reinvented himself at Hogwarts, cultivating a sense of dominance that no one else could match. His talent alarmed the 3 great magicians, Tom, Wanda, and Frigga. Tom and Wanda finally understood why Lin Hao had specifically warned them to keep an eye on this little fat boy. This unreasonable magical talent was already on par with the two of them. Hearing his friend's domineering remarks, Peter silently withdrew his hand from his shoulder and fell into a low mood. He had once been the intellectual leader of the team, and his academic performance was always slightly better than Gwen and Ned. Although the gap between the 3 was not really that big, after all, they were still elementary school students and the difference was not obvious, but Peter was always the best. After entering the magic school, the situation was reversed. Ned was far ahead, leaving Peter and Gwen far behind. The two of them chased each other, and Gwen often surpassed Peter with a slight advantage. Don't always compare yourself to this freak. Let's compare ourselves to ourselves. As long as we're better today than yesterday, that's enough. Gwen, ever sensitive, sensed Peter's disappointment and comforted him once more. Haven't you heard what the principal and the teachers have said? There haven't been many freaks like Ned in the entire history of the wizarding world. His talent is unreasonable. Gwen, even as she spoke, felt a flicker of emotion. When a top student meets a freak, it's inevitable that there will be a similar resentment. Ned folded his arms across his chest, patted his best friend, and said proudly, from now on, if you run into danger, I'll go first. I'll protect you. Amid the children's chatter, Whitebeard, wielding an aginata, appeared in the clearing, accompanied by a 6 or 7-year-old child, Goku. Tom, followed by 2 deputy directors of SWORD, entered the corridor at the edge of the clearing. We can begin. Whitebeard then took 2 steps forward, approaching a long, black-covered rock in the clearing. He stretched out his hand and pulled it, revealing a silver-white, whale-shaped spaceship, 100 meters long, 20 meters wide, and 10 meters high. This is, Bernard asked in astonishment, his face incredulous. A spaceship? Tom smiled faintly and replied indifferently, this is Hogwarts Moby Dick, used to search for and capture magical creatures from other planets to enrich Hogwarts inventory. You? Valentina took a deep breath, calming herself. So Earth's wizarding world has long mastered space travel technology, aside from Frigga, who had already revealed her identity. Even the 6-meter-tall Whitebird and the long-tailed imp, Valentina had no doubt they were Earthlings. She knew Earth better than the average person, having witnessed many strange people and events. Numerous intelligence reports indicated that wizards and a hidden magical world existed on Earth, though they were difficult for ordinary people to find. Therefore, Valentina could accept the existence of Tom and his group of wizards, but she couldn't accept that wizards were also involved in science, with technological achievements even more advanced than those of America, known as the world's #1. The great United States couldn't even build a spacecraft capable of traveling beyond the solar system, or even the Earth-Moon system, yet a group of wizards had come up with a spacecraft capable of long-distance voyages. With both magic and technology, do you still have any reason? Tom didn't respond, simply saying, "Students, stand back and make room for Mr. Edward. He's about to set sail." The children who had gathered around the spacecraft retreated, but their curious eyes still lingered at the spacecraft they had only seen on television. The ship's hatch opened, and Whitebird and Goku stepped inside. With no sign of jet engines, the ship silently ascended, causing Valentina's expression to darken even further. The technology before her was so advanced that it frightened her. "Go." Tom waved at the ship in the air and used his wand to open the shield. "Have a safe trip and return safely." Still without the roar of the engines, the silver-white ship soared high into the sky, so fast that in the blink of an eye it vanished into a tiny speck of light invisible to the naked eye. Lin Hao, Bulma, and Vegapunk built a Moby Dick for Whitebird, heavily infused with vibranium. It boasts anti-gravity technology, a warp drive, and space-jumping capabilities. Despite its small size, its performance is undeniably top-tier in the entire universe. After contracting with Odin, Lin Hao and the SUMA finally acquired spacecraft technology comparable to that of the Kree and the former Skrull civilizations. While Asgard relies on the more convenient Rainbow Bridge for transportation, as a father-like being, it's no wonder Odin could acquire some of the universally accepted spacecraft technology. Not only did Lin Hao possess the technology, but he also obtained the cosmic map he had longed for from Odin. This gave Whitebeard's pirate flag the opportunity to soar to the stars. Originally, these two chapters should have been combined to avoid repetition and tedium, but I went out that afternoon and returned that evening feeling rushed. Since I hadn't updated yet, I hurriedly uploaded the previous chapter and then wrote this one. Chapter 177, Selling Anxiety and Killing with a Boro Knife. After seeing off Whitebeard's Moby Dick, Tom Riddle turned to the two deputy directors of SWORD, his lips curled slightly. As a member of Earth, we certainly have a responsibility to defend against alien invasion. Thank you, Principal Riddle, for your understanding. Bernard Moore breathed a sigh of relief. The news of Hogwarts possessing a spaceship had already shaken him greatly, and now he just wanted to complete his mission quickly, relaying the news back to Downing Street and then to SWORD. Tom frowned, as if he hadn't remembered the organization the two men belonged to. SWORD, Bernard quickly and considerately replied. If SWORD requires any assistance from Hogwarts, please submit a formal request. As long as it doesn't interfere with the normal operation of the school, I won't refuse, Tom said. Thank you very much, Principal Riddle, for your contribution to world peace, Bernard said emotionally. The British Isles are truly blessed to have you, haha, Tom laughed heartily. Dumbledore should have heard this, the old headmaster's expression would surely have been quite amusing. Bernard couldn't understand why the usually aloof Tom smiled so warmly. He only knew he'd completed his mission and it was time to return to deliver the intelligence. Valentina de La Fontaine's face had been sullen ever since she saw the Hogwarts spaceship. She didn't bother to sow discord, only to feel a heavy pressure. After seeing the two off, Tom reported the situation to Lin Hao. Today's actions at Hogwarts were naturally a command from their master. Wu Nano was now Director Lin's assistant, responsible for managing the personnel ostensibly assigned to SWORD by DORD. After observing Lin Hao's actions, she couldn't help but ask, aren't you afraid of scaring the Americans? It now seemed Director Lin's first move at the meeting was to lure Valentina to Hogwarts and witness the spaceship's launch. Besides us, the Eternals are the only forces on Earth that possess spaceship manufacturing technology. It's uncertain whether the Skrull spaceship is still in the solar system. Kamar Taj doesn't need to build a spaceship, but it possesses a cosmic map. Lin Hao's answer seemed off-topic, but Wu Nano was smart enough to guess his intention. Are you going to force the Americans to proactively provoke the legendary magical community, or intensify their search for any traces of aliens who have visited Earth, killing with a borrowed knife, exploiting the Americans' anxiety to bite the bullet? Wu Nana laughed. Tisk, tisk, it still has to be you, the Great Devil. She hadn't seen Lin Hao's true face, but she had seen him don the Great Devil mask in his current scientific researcher's guise. That's why, knowing Zheng Xian was planning to send Lin Hao to America, she'd come over curiously to inquire. Director Lin said no more, assuming the airs of a leader. Wu Nana didn't know Valentina's background, so she couldn't guess Lin Hao's secondary motive. Having just left Hogwarts, Valentina immediately separated from Bernard, who was anxious to report back and had no time to pay attention to her. Returning to her business car, Valentina switched to the vehicle's satellite phone and first reported to the sponsors what she had discovered at Hogwarts that day. She also proposed a preliminary response plan to comfort the sponsors. After over an hour of phone calls, the exhausted female agent switched to another phone. Unfortunately, the call didn't go through. She headed to the airport and boarded a Quinjet-like space fighter to return to America as quickly as possible. After landing at a small private airport outside Washington, Valentina drove non-stop to a nearby reservoir. This location, featured in the film Captain America: Civil War, served as one of Nick Fury's safe houses. Breaking through the old iron door, Valentina reached a dusty computer, booted it up using familiar procedures, and sent an urgent call to Nick Fury. However, Nick Fury was already aboard a Skrull spaceship, far into outer space, and no signal from Earth had been received. The moon was at its zenith, and Valentina, after a long, busy day, waited for a long time for a reply, growing increasingly anxious. Damn. Has this idiot really gone all in on the alien side? While people like the fake captain and Natasha Romanoff were still lamenting Nick Fury's death, Valentina was absolutely convinced that Black Boiled Egg was still alive. After all, they had a know-it-all experience. Previously, Valentina hadn't known Nick Fury had any ties to aliens, even secretly raising a group of them, until Lin Hao publicly exposed him as a ball traitor. Seeing the Hogwarts spaceship today, her first thought was Nick Fury, who had been in contact with aliens for over a decade. Valentina believed that with Black Boiled Egg's personality and abilities, he would have been able to extract alien technology and even more rare star maps within those decades. That was the makings of a professional agent. She had no idea that Nick Fury wasn't just playing around with the aliens, but actually considered the Skrulls his allies, not only helping them secure a habitat on Earth, but even setting an example by marrying a Skrull wife. As Lin Hao predicted, Valentina felt a surge of anxiety after seeing the Hogwarts spaceship. This was the way the American elite eagles behaved. Once they discovered an individual or force on Earth that could threaten them, they would exhaust all means to guard against, suppress, and ultimately destroy them. In the words of young Master Zhao, Jing Zhao wouldn't tolerate such a powerful individual. Upon seeing another faction possess a spaceship they didn't possess, the Americans' first instinct was to seize it, and if they couldn't, destroy it. However, Hogwarts was a magical school, possessing extraordinary powers that the American elite eagles feared. Since they couldn't seize it, they had to find other ways to acquire it. Nick Fury was the person Valentina believed had the easiest access to spaceship manufacturing technology and cosmic maps, but unfortunately, she couldn't contact him. Fuck, the old woman kicked the chair in front of her computer, shut it down, and left. Her financial backer was giving her little time. Valentina needed to show some results quickly, or he would ruthlessly abandon her. Inform everyone, drop everything else and focus on searching for any intelligence related to aliens. Valentina returned to the van and immediately ordered her men: UFOs, strange creatures, ancient ruins, myths and legends, anything that could possibly be alien, don't let go. Several powerful American agencies had previously produced irrefutable evidence of the existence of aliens, demonstrating that numerous sightings of aliens had occurred both within the United States and around the world. Valentina doubted they wouldn't find any if they were willing to put in the effort. Chapter 178: Unexpected Beauty Trap. Hong Kong Island, Yamati, Temple Street. This is a renowned night market, known as the island's common man's nightclub. Every night, tourists from all over the world flock here, a medley of all walks of life. Beneath the archway, a sparse crowd gathers, and among them, an elderly man performs his art. My grandfather once said everyone has secrets, some beautiful, some dark. Chen Horan holds out his empty hand, shakes it at the audience, then brings it to his lips and exhales, revealing a white egg. The only way to know the truth is to go outside it. Fuck you. You idiot. A young woman with dyed green hair, accompanied by several flashy, short men, approaches with a reckless gait, surrounding Chen Huan. Do you know whose territory this is? You've come to Temple Street to make money, but have you ever paid your respects to the pier? Seeing the gangsters approach, the already sparse number of tourists disperses. A short, mule-like figure stepped forward, snatched a plastic bucket containing money from the ground, and tossed it to the young gangster. Sister Shasha glanced down, disdainful. So useless? You can't even afford a bowl of barbecued pork rice. She took a few steps forward, sizing Chen Huan up and down, even poking his muscles with a satisfied smile. Don't tell me I won't give you a chance. From now on, hang out with me, and no one in your mati will dare bully you. Chen Huan said weakly, I sell my art, not my body. Yunjia Chan, what do you mean? The young gangster raged. Why would I fall for a skinny guy like you? Sister Shasha, I've heard of you. Chen Huan glanced around, searching for an opportunity, and replied perfunctorily, the Black Widow of your mati. You eat men like a bastard and leave them for dead. Suddenly, a flame erupted from his palm, and he charged towards the smaller gangster on his left. With a wave of his hand, the flames in his palm suddenly grew, frightening the gangster so much that he retreated and fell to the ground. Ghost, your mother. Sasha ran over, slapping the terrified henchman awake and cursing, that guy either has superpowers or magic. Catch him quickly. He'll sell for a fortune. With a boss's order, the gangsters gave chase. Chen Huan had only recently arrived at Temple Street, while the gangsters were the local tyrants. Although he had gotten a head start, he was about to be blocked again. Panicked, Chen Huan ran into a residential building. As he sprinted down the hallway, he was suddenly stopped by an open door. A dark-skinned woman dragged him inside. The woman quickly closed the door and, in a hushed voice, warned Chen Huan, don't talk. Seconds later, footsteps echoed outside, along with the confused voices of the gangsters. Pujizi, where the hell did he go? Abin, have you seen him upstairs? No, there's no one upstairs. Sangao, what about downstairs? Brother Bose, there's no one downstairs either. Damn, Pujizi got away. After a moment's silence, the leading gangster shouted again, search every house. Oh no, the police are coming. In the distance, sirens blared. The gangsters outside immediately cursed. Damn, it was a wasted trip. The footsteps gradually faded. Inside, the dark-skinned woman and Chen Huan breathed a sigh of relief. Reina glanced back at the Asian man and dropped her hands from her waist. Ever since SHIELD was shut down, Hydra's overseas missions had become increasingly difficult, as they had lost global law enforcement authority. This dark-skinned woman wasn't Alexander Pierce's subordinate. Her supervisor was Sunil Bakshi, a former level 6 SHIELD agent planted there by Daniel Whitehall. Currently, SHIELD agents are still under investigation. Pierce's clone, acting on Lin Hao's orders, is still controlling Whitehall, deliberately hindering his henchmen, preventing them from passing the review process and joining the newly formed SHIELD agency. Like her superior, Sunil, Reina is currently under investigation status. She has been stripped of her SHIELD agent powers but has not yet been granted a new SHIELD identity. Therefore, Reina's recent visit to Hong Kong Island is unofficial, simply a tourist trip on an American passport. These former SHIELD agents are merely under investigation, not convicted of any crime. They only need to attend all investigations on time, and even their basic salary remains. Otherwise, wouldn't a 2 to 3 year investigation period force them to resign or even defect? The 5 major powers can't be so foolish as to allow over 300,000 highly trained agents to drift around and become a threat to social stability. They've all been trained at their own expense. Reina, who had originally just been out relaxing, stumbled upon the arsonist Chen Huan in Temple Street yesterday and immediately confirmed he was a transcendent. Lacking even a weapon, she had no choice but to follow Chen Huan and secretly note his address. Upon returning to the hotel, she immediately contacted her superior, Sunil, who in turn reported to Whitehall, who personally ordered Reina to find her way to retrieve him. Whitehall, despite appearing subservient, was no less ambitious after decades of studying the Inhumans. With Pierce currently in power, Whitehall dared not openly resist, fearing a joint attack from the 5 superpowers. Therefore, she resorted to covert action. Lin Hao also needed a pure-blooded Hydra to carry out actions that could trigger the corrective force, exploiting the villain's desires and ambitions. Upon receiving the order from her superiors, Reina immediately contacted a local Hong Kong gang, purchased a weapon, and planned to secretly capture Chen Horan and abduct him using the channels previously developed by SHIELD. Upon returning, she encountered Chen Horan being pursued by gangsters. She took a shortcut, overtaking him and breaking into the house to rescue him. "Who are you?" The bedroom door suddenly flung open, revealing a sleepy child. Reina frowned, muttering trouble, and decisively drew her gun. "No." Chen Horan immediately rushed towards the child, shooting a ball of fire at her. The bullet missed, and Reina quickly stepped back, the flames singeing her curls, her hairline rising slightly. "Fuck!" Reina immediately raised her gun and fired at Chen Horan. Holding the child, Chen Horan rolled into the bedroom, shot on the back and thigh, bleeding profusely. Hearing the gunshots, the Yuanchu police officers who had just arrived shouted from downstairs. "Shooting! Attention all units, surround this building and search thoroughly, be careful, the criminals have guns." Reina glanced at the unwieldy and silenced gun, feeling extremely annoyed. Time was running out, and the arms dealer she had found didn't have any of her usual weapons, let alone a silencer. Reina had originally planned to use her beauty to lure the poor loser into following her. After rescuing the person just now, the situation was better for her, and she had the extra life-saving grace. But there was a little ghost in the house. Chapter 179 The Curious Inspector of Yuanchu. Through this unexpected operation, Reina deeply understood the benefits of a legitimate position. Previously, they had hidden within the SHIELD system, enjoying the global law enforcement authority secured by the United States, maintaining legal status wherever they went. Sovereign nations were expected to respect the World Security Council, and troubled nations were expected to respect their weapons. When carrying out their missions, they were unstoppable and effortless. Unlike the current situation of being so secretive, despite their efforts, they were constantly hampered by various unexpected circumstances. If she were still representing the official authorities, Reina could simply smile at the poor loser Chen Horan and offer him a few flattering words, and her capture would be assured. The Yuanchu police station was surrounding the building. Reina had no time to dwell on it, so she confessed her purpose. "Sir, I know you're a person with superpowers. To be more precise, you belong to a unique race, an ancient race called the Inhumans, and you're a very talented one. Not every Inhuman can awaken superpowers on their own without the aid of a sacred artifact. My boss is also an Inhuman. I contacted him immediately after seeing your performance yesterday. He's very interested in you. If you're willing to come with me, he'll not only give you money and beautiful women, but he'll also help you improve your fire abilities, making you even more powerful." These words were half-truths, but quite intimidating. Chen Horan had never heard of the Inhumans, but the other party's assurances made him hesitate. Crucially, he could hear the sirens blaring outside. After firing shots and attracting the police, the other party stayed and talked to him for so long, believing the other party's words to be somewhat credible. But how could he not feel resentment after being shot? Seeing the other party's lack of reaction, Reina could wait no longer. "Think about it. I'll come back for you." With that, he climbed up to the window on the other side of the house, kicked down the old security window, and scrambled down the water pipe. He reached the back alley, quickly discarded his weapon, put his coat on inside out, and wrapped his head with a silk scarf. By the time he left the alley, he had changed into a different look and swaggered through the cordoned-off area surrounding Yuanchu police station. The Yuanchu officers had no idea who had fired the shots and allowed the former SHIELD agent to escape safely. Chen Horan, who was inside the house, was quickly spotted by the officers. "Call an ambulance. Someone's been shot." Chen Horan's unprofessional attempts to save the child resulted in him falling unconscious while rolling over. Fortunately, he escaped the bullet. Both were taken to the hospital, where the child quickly regained consciousness and, accompanied by his family, was questioned by the officers. "Boss," the child said the man was there with another black woman. It was the woman who fired the shots, his subordinate reported to Inspector Liu Weiqiang of the Yuanchu Serious Crime Squad. The child finished his homework and was sleeping at home while his parents were setting up a stall at the night market. He was woken half asleep to find two strangers in the house. The black woman was about to shoot him, but must have been saved by the men inside. Liu Weiqiang was waiting outside the operating room. Upon hearing this, he asked his subordinates, have the background checks been completed? Have the gangsters listed in the police report been apprehended? Chen Horan, 32, from Chaoshan. He arrived in Hong Kong 2 weeks ago and has been performing magic tricks on Temple Street. The subordinate handed over a file retrieved from the immigration department. As for the gangsters chasing him, we asked the neighbors and they're from Hong Kong. What's wrong with Hong Kong? Liu Weiqiang sneered. Do you think it's still from more than 10 years ago? Send someone to arrest them. The use of guns was a major case, a real achievement. The door to the operating room opened and the doctor walked out. The bullet has been removed. There were no vital injuries to the back. The bullet in the thigh grazed an artery, but they were brought in just in time and have been saved. Seeing their identities, the doctor reminded them, the patient needs to rest. He won't wake up until tomorrow afternoon at the earliest. Come back and ask questions then. Just as Liu Weiqiang was about to arrange for 2 of his men to take care of him before leaving, a group of men in black suits rushed straight into the operating room. Which one is Inspector Liu Weiqiang? The leader of the men in black suits asked. I am. Liu Weiqiang glanced at them and had a bad feeling. The other man pulled his ID from his jacket pocket and showed it to him. Security Bureau Operations Department, we need to take the people inside away. His attitude was firm, without the slightest hint of negotiation, and the tone was direct and commanding. Are you kidding me? Liu Weiqiang glanced at the ID in front of him and sneered. I've been in the police force for 21 years and lived on Hong Kong Island for 42 years, and I've never heard of the Security Bureau having an operations department. You're lucky you haven't heard of it, the man in the black suit said coldly. If you got our identities, call your boss. He's qualified to know. With a wave of his hand, the man in the black suit behind him rushed into the operating room, ignoring the Yuanchu police officers who tried to stop him. Seeing that the man's gun was better than his own, Liu Weiqiang immediately pulled out his phone and called the station chief. What? Don't care? This is our case. Don't ask questions you shouldn't ask. Once you're in my position, you'll be qualified to know. Without a word, the chief hung up. The man in the black suit looked stern but seemed very professional. Someone monitored the data from the recording equipment and retrieved the medical records. After collecting all the blood-stained medical equipment, they injected a mysterious potion into Chen Horan, who lay on the bed. As they wheeled out the operating table, Liu Weiqiang noticed that Chen Horan, whose face had been pale from excessive blood loss, had regained its rosy complexion, and his breathing had become more forceful. Watching them retreat, his subordinates hurriedly asked Liu Weiqiang, Boss, who are these people? Don't ask questions you shouldn't. After venting his frustrations, Liu Weiqiang, feeling a little better, still felt a bit resigned. He ordered his subordinates, go and capture the gangsters the caller mentioned. Huh? The subordinates were stunned. What? Liu Weiqiang scolded. I don't handle shootings, but I can't handle gangsters, boss. Gangsters are handled by the anti-triad unit. We really can't handle serious cases. If I say it's a serious case, then it is a serious case. Liu Weiqiang glared at him. What can't the anti-triad unit handle? I will handle it. What can the anti-triad unit handle? I will handle as well. Liu Weiqiang's intuition told him that something serious must be going on here. It wasn't just simple curiosity, a sense of justice was also at work. He was just bringing back a few gangsters. At worst, if they found any problems and turned them over to the anti-triad unit, they'd be thanking him. He'd forgotten that curiosity could sometimes lead to unexpected consequences. The man in the black suit took Chen Horan away, but instead of taking him to the Security Bureau compound, he took him to property owned by the China Resources Group. A regular doctor thought Chen Horan wouldn't wake up until tomorrow afternoon at the earliest, but after receiving the injection provided by the man in the black suit, he woke up as soon as he arrived in his new room. Chapter 180 The End of the Universe's Organization. Awake, Shenbing walked over to the bedside and sized up Chen Horan, curious as to what was so special about this man that warranted Director Lin's personal assignment. Chen Horan opened his eyes and surveyed his surroundings, finding himself in a beautifully decorated apartment spanning over 90 square meters. This would be considered a luxury home on Hong Kong Island. Who are you? We're affiliated with the Shield Bureau. You may not have heard of them, so just think of them as a domestic security agency, Shenbing replied with a smile. Shield Bureau. Chen Horan looked bewildered. He had indeed never heard of them. Why did you save that child? Shenbing suddenly asked. Huh? Chen Horan didn't react. Did you get injured saving the child? Shenbing stared at him intently. emphasizing his question again. So why did you save that child? Does that even require a reason? Chen Horan, puzzled, shook his head. I didn't think much of it, although Chen Horan, driven by poverty, yearned for wealth and power, his fundamental values remained intact. It wasn't until he was injected with the incomplete extremis virus that he became manic and furious, ultimately exploding into a ball of fireworks. Aside from leaving Hydra with a cache of research data and blood samples, his death was meaningless. Shen Bing glanced at the polygraph data on the tablet and, based on his observation, believed the other party to be telling the truth. After completing the initial interview, Shen Bing smiled and began to reveal some information to Chen Horan, as Lin Hao had requested. The woman you met before may have revealed some things to you, but she certainly concealed a lot. The reason you unexpectedly awakened your fire superpower is because you have a special gene in your body. This gene is inherited by a certain group of humans. These special humans are called Inhumans. Chen Horan, unsuspecting, blurted out. That's what the woman said too. That's normal. To trick you, you have to have some real evidence. Shen Bing smiled and continued, so you're not alone, but other Inhumans may not consider you one of their own. Why? Chen Horan wondered. There shouldn't be many people with superpowers. The world has become so dangerous now. No force would give up on a person with superpowers, right? As he spoke, he couldn't help but glance at Shen Bing. You're quite clever, Shen Bing praised, answering his doubts. According to the intelligence we've received, there are indeed some Inhumans forming a group. Coincidentally, their leader is one of our compatriots, a woman from Funan province. Chen Horan's doubts intensified. If that were the case, wouldn't that make him feel more identified? She wants revenge, and the Inhumans around her are mostly orphans she's raised. At your age and not handsome, how can you possibly impress them? Ignoring the other party's joke, Chen Horan suddenly realized and asked Shen Bing expectantly, you just said the SH Miao Bureau is a domestic security agency, so it must have a structure. With such a dangerous world, you must need combat power too, right? Can you be flexible and give a special talent like me a chance to make it out there? They were indeed compatriots. That one sentence alone revealed their bloodline. Shen Bing sized Chen Horan up, meeting his expectant gaze with a smile. Your abilities do have potential, but, he walked over to the hardwood table, stretched out his hand like a claw, and easily dug 5 holes into it. His fingers were completely unscathed. SHIP doesn't need a fire user like you, then why did you bring me? A stunned Chen Horan flashed a look of disappointment, but then he quickly realized, yes, you went to the trouble of bringing me here. You must have something you want my help with, right? Yes, but you're not a professional, so you can refuse, Shen Bing said calmly. We can't force civilians to fight on the battlefield. Chen Horan was stunned, realizing the danger. You should recover first and think it over carefully before making a decision. After the conversation, Shen Bing left. Of course, 2 men in black suits remained in the room to protect Chen Horan. Meanwhile, in the hospital surveillance room, Lena watched the men in black suits push Chen Horan away. Assholes, you're a little late. With her experience and intelligence, she could easily tell that the men in black suits were most likely SHIP. After all, this was their home turf. SHIELD originally had a branch in Hong Kong Island, but it has now been taken over by SHIELD under new regulations. These branches or bases located within the 5 major nations will be taken over by each of them. While still affiliated with SHIELD, they will be staffed entirely by agents from their home countries. This is to prevent another incident of armed agents surrounding Downing Street. Going forward, if SHIELD needs to utilize personnel from the branches within the 5 major nations during a mission, Director Lin Hao and the Deputy Director of the respective nation must jointly issue an order, and a task force consisting of at least 3 nationalities must be dispatched to carry out the mission. The scenario of an all-American SHIELD team wielding immense power in the other 4 nations, as during the Black Braised Egg era, will no longer occur. While this model may seem to limit Director Lin Hao's power, his desire for control is even stronger than Nick Fury's, and he's not just controlling the Black Braised Egg himself. Director Lin effectively controls the lower and middle levels of SHIELD and is infiltrating the upper echelons. Upon discovering that Chen Horan had been taken away by the SWB, Raina knew the situation was hopeless and quickly left the hospital, calling her superiors on the way. Sir, the target has been taken by the SWB. There's nothing I can do. Raina had given up, But Inspector Liu Weiqiang of Yamati Police Station wasn't ready to give up. He found surveillance footage of Chen Horan performing on Temple Street. Is this a magic trick? Liu Weiqiang was startled when he saw Chen Horan suddenly fling a pillar of fire from his hand, but he quickly realized, no, it's definitely not a magic trick. Yes, that makes sense. That's why he was taken away by the men in black suits. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became, feeling like he had stumbled upon a portal to an unknown world. Excitement and curiosity instantly overwhelmed his fear, and Liu Weiqiang immediately left the office. I'm going out to look for clues in the case. Call me if you need anything, he instructed his subordinates and then called an acquaintance in the traffic department. Hao, help me track down a car. He gave the license plate number of the man in black suits and received a response shortly thereafter. Kangzi. What are you doing? A senior from the Ministry of Transportation personally called Liu Weiqiang and sternly warned him, the car you asked how to check on has been taken to China Resources Properties. There's absolutely no way a thief could have gotten into that building. Wow, so aggressive? Liu Weiqiang yelped and hung up. Hey, Kangzi, don't do anything stupid. A busy tone remained on the line. Chapter 181, Chasing the Extraordinary Crime Squad Inspector. The pursuit of transcendence has been a constant pursuit of humanity since the dawn of intelligent consciousness. If one day you stumbled upon the traces of a transcendent, would you summon the courage to pursue them? And what if you possessed some professional expertise and confidence? Of the transcendents reported worldwide, Iron Man relies on technology, leaving the poor beyond their reach. The two fathers-in-law who fought for the White House have been missing for over a year, and the powerful Dongfang Bubei is even more elusive. Furthermore, under Director Lin's orders, Zhen only harms American men, leaving men from other countries with no chance of contact. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, the only well-known and prominent school, only admits children. While older students from around the world gather outside Alnwick Castle, attempting to impress Headmaster Tom with their sincerity, no one has succeeded in 3 months. Furthermore, transcendents are hidden and difficult to find. Now, Liu Weiqiang has discovered one, and this stirs a flutter in his heart, despite his lingering Chuanibaku. Good boy, Dad's busy. Can I come see you on the weekend? An Iron Man figurine? What's so great about admiring an old foreign man? I'll buy you an invincible Oriental figurine, okay? Invincible Oriental figurine, sounds so powerful. Okay, I'll buy you both. Liu Weiqiang hung up the phone and scoffed. You little brat, you've learned how to trick your dad, except in politically chaotic countries where guns are king. And in countries like India and Myanmar where women have no status, divorce rates among police officers, especially criminal detectives, are high in politically stable countries. The intense workload of being away from home for 10 days or even half a month, coupled with the constant risk of criminal retaliation, makes it difficult for the families of police officers to endure the prolonged torment, inevitably leading to marital problems. This was also the case with Inspector Liu Weiqiang of Yamati Police Station. He divorced his wife 3 years ago, and his son married a wealthy older man. The only benefit was that he waived his monthly child support and allowed him to see his son once a week. This was one of the reasons why Liu Weiqiang had the audacity to pursue the extraordinary. He wanted his son to admire him again, not just call him dad when he bought him toys. He's out. Liu Weiqiang, who had been waiting outside the building for most of the day, finally saw Chen Horan walk out alone and hailed a taxi. He followed him all the way, only to discover he'd walked straight into the airport terminal. After a moment's silence, Liu Weiqiang immediately drove to the parking lot. This time, he was determined to follow him, even Jesus couldn't stop him. Boss, I found a lead in last month's gold shop robbery. It'll take a few days to track it down, so I'm reporting back to you, asshole. Do you think I don't know what you're doing? The director shouted angrily. Old Lee from the Ministry of Transportation has already called me. Get back to me right away, the signal's bad. I'll call you later. He hung up and retrieved his passport from his locker. Fortunately, he hadn't left his belongings at home when he went abroad to investigate a case. In fact, he hadn't been home many times in the past 6 months. Entering the terminal, he went straight to the information desk. Showing his police ID and the copy of Chen Horan's information his men had obtained from the immigration department. I need to know which flight this person bought. Liu Weiqiang had no choice but to take a gamble, bet that the destination Chen Horan was visiting had visa-free access or visa on arrival for Hong Kong Island. Sir, A flight to Kathmandu in an hour, thank you. Liu Weiqiang immediately rushed to the ticket vending machine and bought a ticket before it stopped selling tickets. Inside the first-class waiting room, Chen Horn looked around excitedly. He ultimately took a gamble and accepted Shen Bing's offer, volunteering for the dangerous mission as a test for joining the Shenmiao Bureau. What state-owned enterprise wouldn't require an exam? This unit always flew first class on missions, and with such good benefits, it was only natural to have an exam. Let's go for it, Chen Horn, flying first class for the first time, encouraged himself. 6 months ago, Chen Horn accidentally caught fire with his towel while showering, and that's when he awakened his flame ability. It started as a tiny flame, about the size of a lighter, but it gradually grew larger. Like the protagonists in many stories, Chen Horn, after awakening his superpower, began to fantasize about a life of sudden wealth and beautiful women. Unfortunately, reality was a bit harsh. With his current flame power, barely the size of a fist, and his lack of professional training, he could only rely on surprise to intimidate small-time thugs. He had previously been unaware of the existence of the SHIELD agency. Like many, he feared the brutal brutality of a repressive government, so he took his savings and ventured to Hong Kong Island, hoping to find a chance to strike it rich. After countless hardships, he arrived at Temple Street and began performing. Fortunately, his hard work paid off, and he had a chance to make it to shore. After a 5-hour flight, Chen Horn landed in Kathmandu. A taxi pulled up in front of him, and the driver called out in Cantonese, "Handsome boy, would you like a ride?" Chen Horn quickly opened the door and got in. "You are," with a touch of excitement, Chen Horn, sitting in the back seat, leaned forward and whispered tentatively, "Should I say something in code? This car isn't under surveillance." The driver rolled his eyes and explained, "You can speak without worry, your mission is actually very simple. Just go to the location and set it on fire, just like you did in Temple Street before. Just be natural, we're all around here. As long as you don't run around or mess around, you'll easily pass the assessment and get your position." Oh, Chen Horn nodded quickly. After driving for a few minutes, the driver spotted a taxi following behind and immediately contacted Shen Bing. "Captain, have you sent another car, high in the sky, inside a stealth transport plane?" Shen Bing zoomed in on the footage and located 2 taxis below. One was marked red, indicating a member of his team, while the other was unmarked. "Check it out." The technicians immediately hacked into the Kathmandu airport surveillance, found Liu Weiqiang's footage, and retrieved the corresponding information from the database. Hong Kong Island police officers? What's going on? Shen Bing wondered, and turned around to ask the team member who went to the hospital to pick someone up last night, "Do you know this person?" Liu Weiqiang, inspector of the Serious Crime Unit of Yuanchu Police Station. People who can be selected from the 150,000 agents of the Shenmiao Bureau to join the action team naturally have good memories. What is he going to do? Chase Chen Horn. Shen Bing immediately contacted his colleagues in the Hong Kong Island branch and asked them to call the Yuanchu Police Station. The Operations Department of the Security Bureau is at the same level as the Police Department. It is the official banner of the Shenmiao Bureau in Hong Kong Island. Only the top leaders of Hong Kong Island are qualified to know about this department. The more powerful and influential people are, the more they care about their own safety. Therefore, there was no obstacle when the Shenmiao Bureau set up this branch in Hong Kong Island. Just like the camp in Shekong, it was an existence that the top leaders of Hong Kong Island had to accept. Soon, Shen Bing received a reply. Yuanchu Police Station stated that Liu Weiqiang did have a mission and needed to go abroad to investigate clues to a case. Chapter 182 Director Lin's Fishing Operation. Haha, what a loyal boss. Shen Bing chuckled and ordered the team members in the first taxi, "Speed up. Get rid of the car behind you." The SHM agent's driving skills were naturally far superior to those of the average Kathmandu driver. Even with satellite navigation, they knew the route better than the local veterans. Damn it, in the taxi behind, Liu Weiqiang realized he had been spotted and quickly gestured to the driver in English. "Hurry up. Speed up. Catch him." Even with the allure of US dollars, the veteran driver's strength wouldn't allow it. After 3 minutes of scrambling, he completely lost track of the car ahead. Shit, Liu Weiqiang threw a bill, grabbed his bag, and got out of the car and ran. Unfamiliar with the area, he not only lost his way but nearly got lost. After shaking off the tail, the SWB agents took Chen Horn to the hotel. Before getting out of the car, they reminded him, "Rest up. Pretend to be a tourist and wander around tonight. Wait for a call to go to the designated location. There's navigation software on your phone. This is a translator that also functions as a Bluetooth headset. The driver handed him a box containing a pair of seemingly normal white headphones. It can also translate? So advanced, Chen Horan took it with a hint of surprise. The new unit is indeed very capable. I must pass this assessment. After making arrangements for Chen Horan, the SWB left 2 people at the hotel to prevent any accidents for the rookies on their first mission. The rest of the ground forces were dispersed to maintain security in the target area. Thanks to Nepal's visa-on-arrival policy for domestic tourists, the streets of Kathmandu are full of Chinese tourists. Honestly, a visa-free policy for countries rich in tourism resources can indeed bring significant economic benefits. If a country needs to showcase its strength and has the confidence to defend itself against external sabotage, then a visa-free policy is a godsend. For example, topics that used to dominate YouTube were topics like does China have cars, do Chinese people have pigtails, and can't they afford TEGs? Now, with the introduction of the 144-hour visa-free policy, these absurd and ignorant topics have lost their appeal. Instead, TikTok is filled with bloggers promoting China's beautiful scenery and delicious cuisine. After the divine intervention, many people who are bananas, were defeated because no one listened to their stories, leading to the loss of their income. Let's enjoy the experience of once you enter the country, there will be great scholars to debate with you. The camera returns to the transport plane high in the sky. Shen Bing's gaze shifts to another surveillance point, showing a clinic where a man with dark hair and a prominent nose is treating residents. Director, Calvin Zabo is currently doing well. No signs of other mutants have been detected. The video shows Lin Hao at SWORD headquarters. 3 aerospace carriers are currently traveling eastward on a predetermined trajectory over the Atlantic Ocean. Don't worry. They're all Inhumans with superpowers. Who can guarantee there aren't those with special abilities? Lin Hao didn't reveal the source of his intelligence. He had previously tasked Saber Zhaoyu with searching for the Inhumans' afterlife, but unfortunately, he couldn't find it. After contracting with Odin, he used Heimdall's abilities to search thoroughly, but still couldn't find it. This confirmed that the small village inhabited by the Inhumans was located in another dimension, just like Taro Village, Kunlun, and Kamartaj. Without coordinates, a magician couldn't open a portal. Unfortunately, this so-called afterlife is a setting unique to the film and television universe. Even Zheng Xian and the organization behind him don't have the coordinates. The universe these rebels inhabit doesn't even have an afterlife village, just like Lin Hao's universe doesn't have an Adeline on the moon. Currently, only Jia Ying has recruited a group of Inhumans to build the afterlife in this universe. Desperate, Lin Hao resorted to a crude method, phishing. It just so happened that Chen Horan had been logged into the official system of the Yuamati police station last night, triggering the reminder program Lin Hao had set up for the SHIE, leading to this operation. Since joining the SHIE, Lin Hao has been marking keywords with people and objects of value in his memory. These keywords are then embedded into the SHIE system during upgrades, alerting Lin Hao to any discovery. People like the Wang father and son and the Wanda siblings were quickly located and recruited thanks to these alerts. Previously, such actions required an excuse to deceive Zheng Xian, but now he can use SHIE's power openly. Even revealing the backdoor program he initially installed would only earn him a glare and a bit of resentment from Zheng Xian. In a different timeline, thanks to his joining, SHIE has become increasingly active internationally, and the impact of butterfly wings will only grow. Following a map is like looking for a needle in a haystack, completely unreliable and akin to searching for a needle in a haystack. Now that he has the 3 aerospace carriers from Project Insight, Lin Hao's search efficiency will be greatly improved. Director, I want to go out on a mission too. Zhao Yi, the saber-wielding warrior, leaned over, a fawning smile forced across his wrinkled face. I feel guilty for not helping you find Jia Ying last time. This time, I'll definitely help you capture her and bring her to your room. What do you mean? Director Lin was no Director Zheng. He was a respectable man, never touching anyone older than himself or under 18. Get it straight, I want to recruit them. If you're sending them, send them to Director Zheng's office. He'd prefer them. Lin Hao suddenly realized something and muttered to himself, no wonder he likes old nuns. A 1,000-year-old creature, everyone is a treasure to him. Goodness, this pear blossom is practically a spirit, isn't it? Zhao Yi's mind immediately cleared, his eyes dull, neither listening nor looking. Knowing too much about the leader's little secrets can lead to trouble. Don't worry. If something does happen, we'll send you for assistance. On the streets of Kathmandu, Inspector Liu Weiqiang of the Yuanchu crime squad strolled dejectedly. He had just received a call from his superiors, received a lecture, and been ordered to buy the next flight back immediately. Losing track of Chen Horan meant losing his chance to pursue the extraordinary, and Liu Weiqiang would have to return to his old life. If he hadn't seen this glimmer of hope, he might not have felt the loss he felt now. Just like those young women who have never seen the rich, they often dismiss everything they long for as a myth. But once they see it with their own eyes, the resentment they feel makes it impossible for them, despite their high self-esteem, to return to a simple life. Perhaps Mazu heard the wish Liu Weiqiang made before taking off from Hong Kong, for he unexpectedly spotted Chen Horan across the street. By then, Chen Horan had followed his instructions and arrived across from Calvin Zabo's clinic. He had unearthed his magic props and began performing a superficial, flawed trick. Liu Weiqiang, who happened to be walking on the sidewalk on the other side of the clinic, was about to chase after him, but suddenly stopped because he noticed several people following him nearby with his professional eyes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183 The Infatuated Male Doctor. After spotting the stalkers, Liu Weiqiang quickly ducked into the alley next to the clinic and began observing. No wonder, this must be a northern unit conducting an operation. Liu Weiqiang noticed a number of Asian faces among the stalkers. Combined with his previous experience at the hospital and the director's warning, he finally understood what he was dealing with. As far as he knew, Hong Kong Island currently had no dedicated unit to deal with supernatural beings. It seemed the northern unit had taken over. Since I'm here, Liu Weiqiang excused himself. I'll probably lend a hand, won't I? We're all compatriots, we're family, he easily convinced himself. The Shamal agents hadn't noticed Liu Weiqiang hiding in the alley. After all, Kathmandu wasn't their territory, so they couldn't mobilize personnel in a high-profile manner. There would inevitably be areas they couldn't see, and this operation wouldn't be a public event. Across the street, Chen Horan saw the few spectators around him grow impatient, so he resorted to his ultimate strategy. Everyone, watch carefully. I'm going to perform a magic trick. I can light a cigarette with my bare hands. As he spoke, he pulled out a cigarette case, took out a cigarette, and placed it between his lips. He then waved his hands toward the audience, indicating he was empty. He then extended a finger, wrapped it with his other hand, and repeatedly drilled and rubbed it. As his finger emerged, a flame suddenly erupted from the tip. Wow! The magical scene drew gasps from the audience, and passers-by gathered around. Chen Horan then extended the flaming finger and slowly moved it before the audience's eyes, allowing them to see it more clearly. Everyone, breathe gently. Don't blow it out. After swirling it twice, he brought the small flame to the tip of his cigarette, lit it, and puffed out a cloud of smoke. Cool. It's real fire. How did he do that? I guess he has a flesh-colored air tube tied to his finger. That must be it. Do you have poor eyesight? He was so close. How could he have a tube? The audience discussed the situation as they pulled out a few coins and small bills and dropped them into the empty jar in front of Chen Horan. Thank you very much. Chen Horan bowed skillfully, like a true magician. Suddenly, a large bill fell into the jar. Chen Horan, bending over, was filled with excitement. He had finally attracted his target, and his assessment was almost complete. The establishment had arrived, and he could finally land a job. Calm down, I must calm down. Taking the moment to stand up, Chen Horan suppressed the surprise in his eyes and took a few deep breaths. Sir, I am very interested in your magic. Could you please have a cup of coffee? Calvin Zabo turned and pointed to the clinic across the street, offering a polite smile. Chen Horan was stunned. This change had not been mentioned during the brief training, and it was inevitable that a rookie would feel awkward. Sorry, I'm being rude, Calvin, however, thought he was being too presumptuous and quickly explained, I'm a doctor. I enjoy these amazing magic tricks, so I can't help but want to see them more often. Don't worry, I know the secret is every magician's trump card. I just want to see more, not ask for your secrets. As he spoke, Calvin took out another large bill and dropped it into the jar. Before the operation, Lin Hao specifically instructed Xianbing not to use the communication device to contact Chen Horan after Calvin appeared. Although he didn't understand the reason, Xianbing unconditionally carried out the director's order. The SHM-1 agent in the distance seemed to be giving him hints, but Chen Horan couldn't see or understand them. However, now in his 30s, he understood how rare opportunities were. If he didn't seize this one, he would be performing on the streets, being targeted by young girls and chased by gangsters. This was an exam, and he not only wanted to pass, but also get a high score. Of course, Chen Horan picked up the money jar, put the props back into his backpack, and followed Calvin to the clinic across the street. In the alley, Liu Weiqiang noticed Calvin leaving the clinic the moment their stalkers shifted their movement slightly. Just as their serious crime unit spotted a suspect, they immediately realized the man emerging from the clinic was a key figure. Without hesitation, Liu Weiqiang slipped through a small window in the clinic's outer wall and, before Calvin and Chen Horan returned, quietly hid in the pharmacy. High in the stealth transport, Xianbing, watching only the surveillance footage, didn't see Liu Weiqiang enter the clinic. He was so preoccupied with watching Calvin to see if he'd taken the bait and ordering his team to protect the director's prized newcomer, he hadn't anticipated the already lost tail would somehow reappear near his target. Calvin led Chen Horan into the clinic, closed the door, and hung a sign indicating it was temporarily closed. Mr. Chen, please take a seat. I'll get you some coffee, Calvin waved. Chen Horan, turning his back to the man and taking a few deep breaths, turned and glanced through the glass door. He saw the SHIE agent he'd met before, walking past. He turned his head and gave him a reassuring look. After the two men sat down in the clinic, Calvin couldn't wait to get straight to the point. Mr. Chen, the flames on your fingers aren't magic, they're a supernatural power. Who are you? Chen Horan immediately stood up, his hands clasped over his chest, a defensive stance. At that moment, Chen Horan felt like he could win the Golden Horse Award for Best Actor. No, don't be so nervous. Calvin quickly raised his hand to indicate his intentions, explaining, I know many other worldly beings like you. Even my wife is one. Someone, Liu Weiqiang, eavesdropping from the pharmacy, narrowed his eyes, feeling the excitement once again. The door to the otherworldly world was opening for him. Inhumans are scattered all over the world. Before they awaken their powers, they're no different from ordinary people. So many Inhumans don't know they have comrades, that they belong to the same race. Calvin stirred his coffee with a spoon and spoke eloquently. My wife has gathered some of our people and established an Inhuman village. It's open to all Inhumans. If you're interested, I can pass on your information. Don't worry, we won't force any Inhumans. If you don't want to, you can leave. Calvin Zabo, known as Mr. Hyde, is the father of Daisy Johnson, the Shockwave Girl, and the husband of Jia Ying, the leader of the Inhumans in the film universe. Over 20 years ago, Jia Ying was captured by Daniel Whitehall, drained of blood, disemboweled, and then brutally dismembered. Calvin painstakingly found his wife's remains, pieced them together, and then dissected other people's organs to transplant into her body. It took several years to reactivate Jia Ying's powers, bringing her back to life. However, during those years of madness, the once normal Calvin developed a split personality due to the injection of a drug he developed. Because obtaining internal organs and maintaining research requires strength. Chapter 184 Breaking into the Inhuman Village. Hearing Calvin Zabo's words, Chen Horan finally realized why the SHIE had sent him all the way to Kathmandu to perform magic tricks. It was to lure out these mutants. The thought flashed through his mind, and Chen Horan immediately resolute his stance. He was from Chaoshan, and on the verge of joining a state-owned enterprise with excellent benefits. Was he really going to abandon his identity for these so-called comrades he had never met before, and foolishly stand against the apparently powerful SHIE? Whatever comrades meant, according to genetics, the genomes of all humans on Earth were largely identical, with only minor differences. Hadn't they been fighting for thousands of years? Chen Horan, who had taken political science classes in middle school and studied the dragon-slaying saga, knew perfectly well that he absolutely could not waver in his stance at this moment. Perhaps this was the true test of his ability to join SHIE, a political review. Having firmly established his stance, he naturally sought ways to secure more benefits for his new unit and achieve higher scores on the exam. Chen Horan pondered for a moment before speaking. Fellow race? Perhaps I could go meet them. I'd like to consider joining them. This answer was not what Calvin had expected, but it dispelled his last remaining vestiges of wariness. The afterlife was populated by numerous Inhumans, and Calvin wasn't worried about Chen Huang posing a threat. He put down his coffee cup, pulled out his phone, and called someone. A moment later, a blinded man suddenly appeared in the clinic. A blue mist shone around him the moment he appeared, then vanished in the blink of an eye. Not bad, you've found two companions at once. The blinded man, nicknamed Reader, was known as Gordon in the film universe. He was the Inhumans' radar for finding new Inhumans, possessing the ability to leap across space. 2. Calvin jolted awake, immediately pulling a loaded syringe from a drawer and stabbing it into his arm without a word. Where's the other one? The injection of the syringe significantly boosted Calvin's strength for a short period of time. He relied on this injection to plunder corpses and resources, and it took him years to help his wife recover. The short-term boost these drugs bring is comparable to that of centipede serum, but they also have a greater drawback. They continuously damage the recipient's brain, leading to schizophrenia and ultimately complete insanity. Liu Weiqiang, hiding in the pharmacy, remained silent for only 3 seconds before he immediately stood up, opened the door, and looked at the eyeless man with a look of surprise. What did you just say? I'm one of your kind? I can awaken superpowers, too. The surprise in Liu Weiqiang's eyes didn't seem fake, for he truly was. He had originally pursued them solely out of reluctance and a yearning for the extraordinary, but he had never imagined that he, too, had the potential to awaken superpowers. The eyeless man turned, seemingly sizing him up, frowning. Don't you have superpowers? You clearly have a genetic fluctuation. I have superpowers. Liu Weiqiang was bewildered. How could I not know? Born on Hong Kong Island, unable to rise to the middle ranks of the police force, Liu Weiqiang clearly had a good education. 30 years ago, Hong Kong English was the native language, even taking precedence over Mandarin. Having learned his native tongue, communicating normally with these English-speaking individuals was no problem. Calvin, having been injected with the serum, was struggling to control his consciousness, but his frantic thoughts were intensifying, steadily eroding his sanity. What's with him? He growled, questioning the eyeless man. Is he an enemy? No, I'm Horn's friend. I saw him follow you in and you closed the door, so I was worried he might be in danger, so I barged in. Liu Weiqiang quickly raised his hands to signal his innocence, while walking towards Chen Horn and winking at him. Earlier at the hospital, Chen Horn had already passed out in the operating room, so he hadn't seen this Liu sir. However, he assumed he was from the SHIA and quickly provided cover. Did you say we should go back to the hotel first? I'm fine here, and Dr. Calvin means no harm. Seeing the man's bloodshot eyes, Chen Horn was a little unsure. Really? Take them away. Calvin, already clutching his left hand with his right, tried his best to control himself, and roared, let Jia Ying figure it out. The eyeless man glanced at him, then stepped forward to grab Chen Horn and Liu Weiqiang, unleashing his special ability and instantly vanishing. Inside the clinic, Calvin, unable to restrain himself, slammed his fist into the metal cabinet, crumbling it. Shen Bing, you'll be responsible for this. Far away in his office at SWIT headquarters, Lin Hao finally obtained the coordinates of Afterlife. He stood up and gave his orders. This guy still has some use. Keep him under control and don't let the Nepalese authorities find him. Yes, Shen Bing agreed. Indeed, Director Lin had left something with Chen Horn, a small demon, invisible to all, capable of transmitting messages across spatial dimensions. A golden red halo appeared in the office. Wanda jumped over and said sweetly to Lin Hao, Brother Lin, do your job. Open the portal. Wanda's best quality was her unwavering obedience. She blindly trusted and admired her brother Lin, and when it came to serious matters, she was never slack. The golden red halo reappeared, revealing a valley filled with birdsong and flowers. Snow-capped mountains were visible in the distance. Lin Hao took the lead, followed by Wanda. Saber Zhaoyi led several agents, following in their wake. The so-called afterlife was a small village in an independent dimension, but the snow-capped mountains in the distance were clearly the Himalayas. Clearly, this valley was a special space created by magic or supernatural powers. Of course, technology could also achieve similar effects. The Kree, the dominant race of the universe, possess similar technology. The Eternal City created by Leonardo da Vinci in Legend of the Shield was a product of technology. The arrival of Lin Hao and his companions alarmed the aliens in the village, and a bolt of lightning struck, which Lin Hao easily shattered. Stunned, The inhuman Lincoln stared at his hand, bewildered. That was a bolt of lightning. Even a wild boar could be reduced to charcoal, yet the young Asian man before him casually swatted it away like a fly. Swatting a fly isn't that easy, is it? Wanda waved her hand, casting the spell Petrify All, sending Lincoln sprawling to the ground. His observation haki captured a fragment of the future, watching the eyeless man run off to take Jia Ying away. Lin Hao immediately unleashed his Conqueror's haki. The vast haki swept over, crushing every inhuman to the ground and blowing away the roofs and walls of the surrounding wooden houses. Zhao Yu quickly led his agents forward to clear the area, fitting each inhuman with a pair of control cuffs developed by Lin Hao. These temporarily suppressed their inhuman genes and disrupted their abilities. The human body was a delicate instrument. Lin Hao didn't need to deprive them of their abilities, simply disrupting them would render their powers uncontrollable. Chapter 185 The Great Devil's Bottom Line. The few hundred extra words in this chapter were added later. Everyone still paid for the 2,000 words. There aren't many inhumans in the afterlife, fewer than 100 in total, and their ages vary, from adults in their 20s and 30s to children as young as 5 or 6. Jia Ying initially trained these inhumans solely to seek revenge against Daniel Whitehall and Hydra. Later, realizing she could potentially help the inhumans achieve more, she hatched a plan to wreak havoc on America. Her journey mirrors that of Yuanchu Star of the Brotherhood of Mutants. Coincidentally, Director Lin shared similar concerns and specifically sought her out for collaboration. Before obtaining the Dragon Essence, Director Lin had considered Jia Ying's superpowers, attempting to draw some blood for research. However, with the updated version, he no longer considered them. Zhao Yu and several other agents, assisting, cleared a clearing and gathered all the unconscious inhumans there. Every inhuman was handcuffed, even the children. Some uncanny abilities can be somewhat problematic. After the operation, the child will be sent to the SHIE Bureau for Education and Upbringing, and to reshape his perspective. Wanda found a chair for Lin Hao, walked behind him, and reached out to massage Lin's shoulders. After waiting for about 5 or 6 minutes, one of the inhumans finally awoke. Surprisingly, the first to awaken was Liu Weiqiang. This experience left earlier bewildered. He remembered being grabbed by the eyeless man's hand at the clinic, and in the blink of an eye, he was in a valley filled with birdsong and flowers. But before he could even take in the snow-capped mountains in the distance, he suddenly fainted. Huh? Lin Hao was surprised to see Liu Weiqiang. As the boss, since he had delegated the task, he certainly wouldn't be keeping a close eye on it, he only wanted a result. As the newly appointed director of SWORD, Lin Hao couldn't possibly be keeping a close eye on it. But Lin Hao remembered that Shen Bing had contacted the Hong Kong authorities while directing the operation, and he also glanced at the footage Liu Weiqiang had captured on the Kathmandu airport surveillance camera. Are you Inspector Liu Weiqiang from the Almaty police station? Lin Hao's quick wit allowed him to memorize the man's information at a glance. Why are you here? Liu Weiqiang had been hiding in the alley next to the clinic. The agents led by Shen Bing hadn't spotted him, and the SHM-1 agents on the scene couldn't possibly peer through the clinic's glass door. Plus, the pharmacy was located in the back room, so they didn't notice the extra people inside. Shen Bing didn't report to Lin Hao until Chen Horn's phone's location signal disappeared. Earlier, when Zhao Yi was cleaning up the battlefield, he handcuffed everyone in the small village, except for Chen Horn, who had also fainted. Naturally, Liu Weiqiang, a stranger, was no exception. Yes, you? Liu Weiqiang tugged at the cuffs behind his back, choosing his words carefully. Are you from a state agency? He had already guessed the North was using Chen Horn as a pretext, and seeing Lin Hao and the others, he naturally assumed that was the case. Besides, Lin Hao spoke Mandarin. Lin Hao pointed at him and cast an unlocking spell, and Liu Weiqiang's handcuffs came undone. Come here, we'll discuss your business later. Liu Weiqiang stood obediently on the side of the SHIELD agent. Hong Kong Island is now under the jurisdiction of the North. Although the police system is relatively independent, he disobeyed the orders of his superiors this time and got involved in the operations of the secret department. To put it seriously, this is prying into state secrets, and the consequences are very serious. Sir Liu just wanted to pursue the extraordinary and had no intention of defecting. Of course, he had to behave honestly and strive for a good result. After waiting for another 2 minutes, Jia Ying woke up first. She looked around and struggled with her hands, but to no avail. Who are you? She cast an angry look at Lin Hao, the only one sitting. SHIELD, Lin Hao. Lin Hao confessed his identity directly, but you might not have heard of them. SHIELD and SHIELD operate in similar ways. While their existence is well known to the upper echelons of government in their respective countries, and SHIELD's influence even extends globally, neither organization has been fully publicized. It wasn't until Steve and Natasha posted online about Hydra's infiltration of SHIELD that ordinary people finally learned of the existence of this organization. Even Tony Stark only truly learned of SHIELD after meeting Nick Fury. Neither organization is as flamboyant as Iron Man, who advertises himself worldwide. Therefore, those without access to information are likely unaware of them. After counting the number of people around her, Jia Ying looked at Lin Hao with fear. The fact that he had wiped out all her men in an instant was unbelievable. I've certainly never heard of this organization, but you went to all the trouble to come here. You must have other motives. Seeing Chen Horan, lying on a wooden board without handcuffs, and Liu Weiqiang standing behind the agent, Jia Ying immediately understood that they were being set up. In search of more of his kind, Gordon frequently travels across Earth, sensing the fluctuations of other Inhumans' abilities. Calvin, who supports his wife's revenge, also carries out a similar mission. Upon discovering an Inhuman, he contacts them. If they show potential and are willing to join the afterlife, Calvin contacts Gordon to take them away. The afterlife is a dimension separate from Earth, inaccessible unless possessing superpowers like Gordon's or the magic Jia Ying had recently discovered. Now, they've swaggered in, apparently having found their location using a decoy. Yes, I hope you'll join the SHIELD. Your abilities are quite useful, Lin Hao said frankly. Don't even think about it, Jia Ying scoffed. I'll never work for any government. Daniel Whitehall's men invaded her village, slaughtered her parents, relatives, and the entire village, then took her back, disemboweled her, and extracted her organs and blood. The government at the time was powerless to intervene. How could someone who had experienced such a situation ever trust the government again? Lin Hao frowned, feeling a sense of unease. In the 8th episode of Marvel's Agents of SHIELD, Season 2, Jia Ying is captured twice. The first incident occurred in 1945, before the Nazis' defeat. This is plausible, considering that during the war, it was easy for Hydra to infiltrate the country with armed personnel. The second incident, however, occurred 44 years later, in 1989. This is completely unconscionable. Back then, the Japanese army could not penetrate the Xinjiang River line northeast of Funan. We held it for 7 years, until victory in the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, earning it the reputation of the Eastern Maginot Line. Yet, with a single stroke of the pen, the Marvel editors insulted the bloodshed by all the anti-Japanese fighters. 44 years later, in 1989, Daniel Whitehall's men, armed and disregarding our national defenses, penetrated deep into Funan, massacred an entire village, and escaped safely with Jia Ying and all the elderly. This is the most vicious insult to the border guards. Marvel fans deliberately ignored this illogical and even blatantly insulting plot. Some took to the SHIELD forum to post clarifications, only to be met with outrageous abuse, resulting in the posts being deleted and even banned. Furthermore, the character Jia Ying in Agents of SHIELD is steeped in American arrogance. Her entire village was slaughtered, she herself was disemboweled and her blood and organs were removed, suffering untold hardships, ultimately succumbing to her husband's repentance. Jia Ying's desire for revenge against the Americans and against SHIELD makes her a villain. Even the man who once loved her chose to protect American interests at the last moment, even at the cost of his own family. The resulting daughter is even more hilarious. She disregards her mother's suffering and her father's years of hardship, unwaveringly and unreservedly standing by SHIELD, willingly serving as a pawn for the Americans. This perfectly captures the glory and greatness of America, as well as its profound appeal to foreigners. This damning setting makes Lin Hao feel like he's facing a hedgehog, feeling helpless. Lin Hao couldn't force a compatriot like this, who had suffered so much at the hands of foreigners, to voluntarily sign a contract. The Great Devil might be unconventional at times, but he always sticks to his bottom line. That bottom line is to always remember your nationality. Oh my god, yesterday a friend reminded me that Jia Ying was kidnapped in 1945, and then I watched Marvel's Agents of SHIELD, Season 2, Episode 8. The opening scene was indeed about the kidnapping in 1945, But in that same episode, 44 years later, in 1989, Jia Ying was kidnapped again, and the massacre of the entire village also took place that year. So I wasn't mistaken, it was the friend who made the mistake. I had to correct my mistake earlier, but now I'm reversing it. Chapter 186, Recruiting the Inhumans. I'm so sorry for what happened to you, Lin Hao said sincerely. The pain you and your fellow villagers have endured. He fell silent again, suddenly realizing that any words would be inadequate, tinged with the arrogance of an outsider. Brother, Wanda said, feeling a pang of pain. It was the first time she had seen such a conflicted expression on the face of the all-powerful brother Lin. Open the portal and call old Zheng over, Lin Hao commanded, rising from his chair and approaching Jia Ying. With a wave of his hand, he uncuffed her. Seizing her moment of surprise, he used the power of time to erase all of Jia Ying's injuries, restoring her body to its state decades earlier. Feeling the state of her body, Jia Ying was incredulous. Her healing and immortality stemmed from unique genes within her body. However, decades ago, her organs and blood had been removed by Daniel Whitehall. The replacement organs weren't original, so their abilities had naturally weakened, given the lack of cells. Now, she found herself in a state restored to her pre-murder state, brimming with energy. This can't make up for the damage you've suffered. It's just a small gesture of sincerity from me on behalf of the SHIE, Lin Hao said, and Zheng Xian emerged from the portal behind. I want to recruit Jia Ying into our plan. Explain it to her, Lin Hao stated. Zheng Xian was slightly taken aback. If it weren't for Lin Hao's serious expression and the fact that he never approached older women, he would have been delusional. I can't help it. I just can't find a way to justify it. They vilified us so badly. Lin Hao shook his head. If Jia Ying wasn't told about the role of the Marvel Universe consciousness, she would never forgive the team responsible for national defense and the SHIE Bureau. A foreign armed group had invaded the heart of the country, massacred an entire village, and then sauntered away. How could Jia Ying not resent those who were supposed to defend her country? How could she still trust the SHIE Bureau, representing the government? Never counsel others to do good without first experiencing their suffering. Zheng Xian finally understood, and after a moment's silence, he nodded. Jia Ying was a fellow countryman, one directly harmed by the Marvel consciousness. Regardless of her abilities, she had the right to know why this had happened to her. Zheng Xian summoned the old Taoist priest and took Jia Ying away. Lin Hao didn't follow, as Zheng Xian needed to delay the editorial department's discovery of Lin Hao's anomaly, giving him more opportunities to grow. Even if he didn't go, Lin Hao knew Zheng Xian would likely take Jia Ying somewhere. It would definitely be to the dimension where Deadpool, having broken through the fourth wall, had Wade Wilson take Jia Ying to the Marvel editorial office he had visited. Only direct evidence could convince Jia Ying of the truth and convince her to side with SHIERD. The Marvel editorial office Zheng Xian knew about was actually the same one Deadpool had visited, a concept already embedded within the Marvel multiverse box. Even in the film universe, She-Hulk eventually visited there. After learning of this existence from Wade Wilson, Zheng Xian fell into despair. Unfortunately, he still didn't know what lay beyond the box. Lin Hao's soul had come from outside the box, and the items the little devil had brought had come from other boxes beyond the box. In a blink of an eye, Zheng Xian and the old Taoist priest returned with Jia Ying, resuming their journey from the moment they had left. Even after learning the truth, Jia Ying's face remained filled with anger and shock. On behalf of the SHIE, I apologize to you and your fellow victims. Zheng Xian bowed slightly and spoke in a deep voice. It must have been the Marvel editor's consciousness that was directing everything back then, preventing the border guards and the SHIE from noticing their invasion. We had no idea such a tragedy had occurred in your village, and we couldn't find any trace of the massacre afterwards. After Lin Hao reminded us, we've searched Funan for the past few years and questioned many people, but no one remembered the incident. It's likely been covered up by the cosmic consciousness. For the editorial department, it's just a matter of writing, no logic required. That's how they see us, backward, ignorant, poor, and vulnerable to humiliation. Enough. Jia Ying, her face filled with fury, stared at Lin Hao and demanded, he said you have a way to free us and avenge me and the villagers, right? Yes, Lin Hao nodded solemnly, his eyes firm. I have no interest in living in a world filled with arrogance and prejudice. Okay, I'll cooperate with you. Having assembled a team of Inhumans, Jia Ying was clearly a decisive and courageous person. After learning the truth, Jia Ying realized that revenge was hopeless on her own and with her 180 mutants. Furthermore, so-called revenge was merely a predetermined fate. Not only could she not kill her enemy, but she was also killed by her husband, and her daughter was left to serve him like a slave. Such a rotten fate was absurd. As he spoke, the others began to awaken. Master, they didn't. Lincoln was shocked to see Jia Ying, her wounds gone and even looking several years younger. I have an announcement. From now on, we will join the SHIE Bureau, Jia Ying said coldly, her anger fading. If anyone doesn't want to, they can leave, but the SHIE Bureau will erase your memories of your afterlife. SHIE Bureau. Gordon, the eyeless man, had already tried to activate his ability, but his wrists always ached, like a poop being held back. Hearing Jia Ying's words, Gordon still asked, Master, is the SHIE Bureau an organization? Can they help us achieve our dreams? Lin Hao waved his hand, first unlocking his handcuffs, then using the power of time to find his lost eye. Gordon, having regained his sight, stared at Lin Hao in disbelief. Although it was his first time seeing him, he recognized him, as he possessed a perceptive ability comparable to Daredevil's. The other awakened Inhumans were astonished upon witnessing this miraculous scene. Everyone, SHIE is an inclusive organization. Although its members are primarily Chinese, we do not exclude people of other races and treat our colleagues equally. As he spoke, Lin Hao gestured to Wanda. Wanda then raised her hands and unleashed the Harry Potter-style restoration spell. In an instant, the village destroyed by the Conqueror's haki was completely restored, from the houses to the plants, back to their original state. These are all things I learned within the Bureau, Wanda said proudly. I've been with SHIE since I was 8. I know both Kung Fu and magic, seeing her red hair and distinctly European-American features. The other non-Asian Inhumans breathed a sigh of relief. If they had rashly joined another organization, they would have worried about being discriminated against. Wow, Chen Horan, now awake, was so excited he couldn't contain his excitement. Did I pass the test? Liu Weiqiang, seemingly invisible, rolled his eyes and hurried over to Lin Hao, flattering him. Boss, what do you think of me? That blind guy just said I have superpowers, too. I had originally wanted to ignore Jia Ying's plight, but I couldn't find a compelling reason to join. Fortunately, the cosmic consciousness setting had already been brought up, which finally made it work. The setting for Jia Ying and agents of SHIELD was truly disgusting. The entire village was massacred by foreigners, but her husband finally woke up and sacrificed his own family for the greater good, while her daughter simply served as a lapdog to the Americans. This was simply stomping on our identity. Chapter 187. Do you want to kill an or a dragon? Boss, we have invoices, Pa. Liu Weiqian quickly angrily corrected himself. Boss, I have superpowers. Wu Yanzhe just said I have superpowers, too. Lin Hao cast his gaze upon him, a tinge of curiosity. Liu Weiqiang, clearly just an ordinary man, had surprisingly woken up first. You see, just to be on the safe side, to prevent the special-powered mutant from fainting, Lin Hao hadn't held back. He unleashed his Conqueror's haki at full power, blowing away several layers of the ground and completely destroying the buildings in the afterlife. A normal person, let alone waking up in a few minutes, would have suffered permanent damage to their cerebral cortex, and in severe cases, would have been reduced to a vegetative state. What qualified this Liusa from Yuamati police station to wake up first? Gordon, does he really have superpowers? Lin Hao looked at Gordon, who had regained his sight. He does have the unique fluctuations of the Inhumans, but, Gordon looked at Liu Weiqiang carefully, sensed it again, and frowned. It's very strange, sometimes he is very active, and sometimes he seems to be covered by a layer of fog. The obelisk, maybe using the obelisk can make him truly awaken, Jia Ying said. The obelisk is a peculiar thing. Ordinary people will die the moment they touch it, but Inhumans with potential can awaken superpowers after touching it. My ability also awakened after touching the obelisk. Lin Hao was silent for a moment, and said frankly, since we are already colleagues, I can't hide it from everyone. You may not know about the origin of the Inhumans. Jia Ying and the other Inhumans really cast a blank look. 1400 years ago, the Kree, a dominant civilization in the universe, came to Earth. They captured humans for biological experiments, intending to create qualified warriors for war. However, the experiments ultimately failed, and the Inhumans on Earth are the product of this experiment. Ignoring the shocked looks of the Inhumans, Lin Hao continued, Inhumans share most of the same genes as ordinary humans, but some have been altered by the Kree, leaving behind the foundation for awakening superpowers. Some Inhumans can awaken on their own without the obelisk, while others require the Terrigen crystal within. I'm sure you've already discovered this. We're the product of aliens. Jia Ying refused to accept the idea. We're all essentially Earthlings, but your ancestors were once captured by the Kree for experimentation, and this genetic heritage has been passed down through the generations. As Lin Hao spoke, Wanda had already returned to the San Francisco estate to retrieve the obelisk. This artifact, a product of Kree technology, had been passed around for over 1,000 years before coming into the hands of Daniel Whitehall 70 years ago, when the old man's name was still Werner Reinhardt. Later, Reinhardt was imprisoned in SHIELD's Rat prison for 44 years, and the obelisk was confiscated by SHIELD, then secretly taken by the original Alexander Pierce. Now, naturally, it fell into Lin Hao's hands. Are you also an Inhuman? Jia Ying was surprised to see Wanda grasp the obelisk with her bare hands without being affected. She had seen Whitehall's experiments before, and no ordinary person could survive bare-handed contact. Haha, since you've joined SHIELD, you should learn to open your eyes and see the world, and not always stay in your own well. Wanda lectured Jia Ying in perfect Mandarin. Be friendly to new colleagues. Lin Hao glared at her, and Wanda quickly let out a playful spit. Taking the obelisk with his bare hands, Lin Hao explained to Jia Ying and the other Inhumans, the reason it's fatal to ordinary people is because this outer shell is a screening process specially left by the Kree. With a slight force, he easily crushed the obelisk's silver shell, revealing the vibrant Terrigen crystal within. The real thing that can activate the Inhuman genes is these crystals. As he spoke, Lin Hao walked over to Liu Weiqiang and held the crystals out to him. Touch them. Where should I touch them? How? Liu Weiqiang, his heart trembling with excitement, stretched out his hand. Closing his eyes, he touched the crystals with his palm, tugging at them for a long time. Is it okay? Liu Weiqiang quietly opened one eye, wondering, why don't I feel anything? Damn, why did he feel like every word this idiot said was a lie? Lin Hao cleared his mind and looked at Liu Weiqiang with a slightly strange expression. He asked, are you feeling any reaction? Should I have any reaction? Liu Sir was bewildered. Excellent, you've piqued my curiosity. Lin Hao remembered that the Terrigen crystals within the obelisk were not pure enough and contained impurities. While they still had the power to awaken Inhumans, they were harmful to ordinary people. Unlike the pure Terrigen crystals left by the Kree in the dungeon, which were harmless to ordinary people. Liu Weiqiang survived contact with the impure crystal, suggesting he possessed Inhuman genes, yet he experienced no superpowers. This unusual situation piqued Lin Hao's scientific curiosity. Sir, the moment he touched the crystal, the vibrations within him were intense, but it was as if something was blocking them, preventing them from breaking free, Gordon quickly reported. My name is Lin Hao. From now on, you can call me Director Lin or Chief Lin. That's my job title. Lin Hao smiled at the Inhumans. He then nodded to Chen Horn and Liu Weiqiang, saying, come on, follow me back to the lab. The aftermath of the Inhumans was handled by specialized personnel from the SWARD. Young Inhumans would be sent to schools run by the SWARD for regular education, while adult Inhumans would attend training camps and, after several months of training, be assigned to special operations teams. Their future compensation would be based on their mission performance and achievements. Only researchers like Lin Hao were given exceptional opportunities for recruitment and promotion, as their technological achievements could be rapidly disseminated, maximizing combat effectiveness, thus affording them certain privileges. Lin Hao brought Chen Horn and Liu Weiqiang back to the SHIE lab, his former workplace. Now that he possessed spatial magic, he could travel more easily. Director Yu Zhen, the deputy from the Technical Development Department, hurried over. Give him an injection of the optimized extremis virus. Lin Hao pointed at Chen Horn and said, this is his reward for completing the mission. Okay. Yu Zhen quickly led Chen Horn to the operating table. Like the Wank father and son, the extremis virus was a reward from Marvel's newbie village. 10 years ago, Lin Hao had found Aldredge Killian and Maya Hansen through SHIE's network and purchased a virus sample and exclusive licensing agreement from them. Killian, having received the funds, founded a biotechnology company and is still continuing research and development on the extremis virus. Lin Hao didn't really care, believing that his multi-world technological background gave him an advantage over the original creator, Killian, and that he could produce a safer and more effective version more quickly. Indeed, over the past decade, Lin Hao has made numerous improvements to the extremis virus, gradually overcoming the flaws of the original version. With the assistance of Vegapunk and Bulma, research and development has been greatly accelerated. Furthermore, the time baggage can directly accelerate the growth of biological samples, saving a considerable amount of research time. Lin Hao has now developed a complete and safe extremis virus. He has even added extracts of Fire Killin and Dragon Essence to create Fire Killin version and Fire Dragon version, respectively, significantly enhancing the virus's self-healing ability and ability to manipulate fire. Do you want a Killin or a dragon? Yu Zhen asked Chen Horan, pointing to 2 tubes of virus serum. Chapter 188 Special User. Unsurprisingly, Chen Horan, a Chinese man, decisively chose the dragon. Yu Zhen personally injected him with the virus serum. The serum took effect quickly, and Chen Horan immediately felt a surge of intense energy coursing through his body, as if every cell was being torn apart and then reassembled. After breaking out in a sweat, Chen Horan's hands suddenly exploded, transforming into a ball of flaming, flowing magma. Ha ha ha, I'm getting stronger. I'm getting stronger. Chen Horan's confidence surged, his sudden surge of strength giving him an illusory sense of power. In that moment, he felt that no one in the world could match him, that he could burn a hole in the sky. Seeing the burnt operating table, Yu Zhen's mouth twitched slightly, and he slapped Chen Horan, not only stunning him, but also pulling out a syringe with his other hand and injecting him with another shot, disrupting Chen Horan's genes and locking out his abilities. The cost of the operating table will be reported to the finance department and deducted from your salary, Yu Zhen said coldly. The blocking drug will last for a week, and the cost will also be deducted from your salary. Just to be clear, the operating table costs 500,000, and the drugs cost 100,000. Chen Horan said weakly, tears welling up in his eyes. How much is our monthly salary? You don't even know the rules? How can the finance department let you know other colleagues' salaries? Yu Zhen asked angrily. Chen Horan reached out and was about to slap himself in the face, but then he changed his mind and slapped his left hand instead, feeling a surge of regret. Why can't I control myself? Be content. If Fire Dragon serum were sold outside, people would be vying for it at $1 billion a tube. If it were auctioned, even 10 billion wouldn't stop it. After all, he was a new colleague, Yu Zhen consoled him. Sure enough, Chen Horan's heartache subsided after hearing this. It made sense. He had only taken a small risk on a mission to gain such powerful superpowers. Even if the cost of the serum wasn't that high, he had definitely become stronger. Does the company provide food and housing? Chen Horan asked another crucial question. Ha ha ha, Yu Zhen couldn't help but laugh. You're quite interesting, boy, I'm not kidding you. The average annual salary plus benefits for the bureau is nearly 200,000 yuan, and field officers receive a 50% bonus. With your abilities, you'll join the special operations team, where your salary and bonuses will double. Not bad, not bad. Just 1 year will do. Chen Horan breathed a sigh of relief. I'm just kidding you, Yu Zhen said with a smile. But I can't help you eliminate the effects of the blocking drug. Wait. This is a lesson for you. Don't be reckless next time. In another operating room next door, Lin Hao, wearing a white lab coat, drew a blood sample from Liu Weiqiang for research. The force of time continuously rewound and fast-forwarded, observing the changes in the cells. 10 minutes later, Lin Hao approached Liu Weiqiang, meeting his anxious gaze. Good news. You are indeed an inhuman, and a special one at that. Really? Liu Weiqiang asked excitedly. Then what are my superpowers? Why can't I feel them? Through observation, I've discovered that your inhuman genes have mutated. Lin Hao's expression became strange, as if he were in a state of shock and uncertainty. There are actually hierarchies within the inhuman race. Some inhumans are born with greater potential. These inhumans can be considered the royal family of the inhumans. There was clearly no city called Adeline on the moon, and Lin Hao had found no trace of Black Bolt or Medusa on Earth. There was only the afterlife gathered by Jia Ying. Logically, there shouldn't be an inhuman royal family. Does this universe include the TV show Inhumans? But old Zheng and Odin both claim there's no Adeline on the moon. Jia Ying's afterlife, she claims, is an independent dimension accidentally discovered 30 years ago. It's understandable that Zheng Xian and Odin haven't discovered it, since they can't possibly be constantly aware of everything happening on Earth. After all, Even Heimdall can't constantly be staring at a single spot on Earth. The eye of Heimdall is like a searchlight, scanning only in a single direction. Just like the human eye, it can only receive information from the area it sees. Otherwise, if it were to receive information from the entire universe in an instant, its brain would explode. According to this setting, only higher dimensional beings like Eternity and the Observer can instantly grasp the entire universe. But Adolin is different. Even the Inhumans on TV have lived on the moon for hundreds and thousands of years, traveling back and forth between the moon and Earth frequently. It's impossible for Zheng Xian and Odin to have found no trace of them for so many years. If this guy isn't an Inhuman royal, why is he so special? Lin Hao studied Liu Weiqian with a piercing gaze, sending goosebumps all over his body. Leader, just speak frankly. I can handle this. The energy from a single crystal might not be enough to fully activate your genes. Lin Hao thought for a moment and made a decision. How about this? I'll have the Hong Kong branch transfer your organizational affiliation to the Shield Bureau. Regardless of whether you can awaken your powers or not, I'll give you a chance to transcend as compensation for your cooperation with my research. Really? Liu Weiqian was overjoyed. The reason he'd risked following Chen Horn was precisely for this elusive, hopeless opportunity to transcend. Now that he'd witnessed the power of the Shield Bureau and had Lin Hao's promise of a lasting solution, his dream had become a reality. Liu Weiqian was thrilled. The country is truly great. As a level 9 agent of the Shield Bureau and the director of the Technical Development Department, Lin Hao had long held the authority to recruit new personnel and control all of the department's research and development efforts. After all, most of the research and development efforts of the past 12 years had been Lin Hao's. The obelisk silver shell was covered in numerous patterns. These patterns combined formed a painting, but if this painting were converted from 2D to 3D, it would create a three-dimensional representation of a city. After the SHIE agency recruited the Inhumans from the afterlife, Lin Hao brought Jia Ying, Gordon, and Lincoln, who had completed their file creation and medical examinations, to his laboratory. This city is the laboratory the Kree used to create the Inhumans. The surviving Inhumans later regarded it as the place where the gods descended. They built a temple in the center and formed a living community around it, thus creating this city. Lin Hao pointed to the 3D projection and explained to Jia Ying and the others. The temple contains more high-purity Terrigen crystals, which can be triggered by the obelisk. The obelisk wasn't destroyed by you. Lincoln's puzzled expression suddenly turned to realization. Lin Hao held the intact obelisk beside him. Come to think of it, if they could even heal Jia Ying's injuries in Gordon's eyes, what would a damaged obelisk be? Where is this city? Liu Weiqian asked eagerly, eager to know what superpower he could awaken. Chapter 189 The Inhumans Underground City. This city is under the sea, with multiple entrances, most of which are submerged. Only one, in San Juan, is still accessible. Lin Hao answered Liu Weiqian's question. So we're going to Puerto Rico? Liu Weiqian asked impatiently. Yes, you stay here. We'll pick you up once we find the location, Lin Hao said. This underground city was new to the city, and he couldn't use apparition or a portal. Lin Hao had to go there first. Gordon, take them there, Lin Hao, now transformed, ordered. With a great demon personally dispatching, a large number of people wasn't necessary. Gordon took Lincoln and Jia Ying there, while Lin Hao apparated directly, appearing in the heart of Old San Juan, outside the Church of St. Joseph. It was late at night, and the streets were deserted. Tourists generally concentrated in the new city, visiting the old town during the day to admire the ancient buildings left by the Spanish colonists, and returning to the bustling downtown area at night to have fun. San Juan's old town hasn't undergone any major development, so surveillance systems are minimal. Even the streetlights are sparse and dim. Any experienced traveler wouldn't stay in such an environment for long, as they might wake up to find their kidneys gone, or even never wake up again. Let's go. The entrance is to a lighthouse by the sea. Lin Hao, leading Jia Ying and the others, expertly navigated the streets of Old San Juan. They were no ordinary people, and it took only a dozen minutes to evade surveillance, cross the city, and reach the beach. This lighthouse, built in the 16th century, boasts nearly 500 years of history. Perched on a hill outside the coastal wall, it was the highest point in San Juan Harbor. Back then, the lighthouse served both navigational purposes and warnings. Looking down, one could see the ancient El Morro fortress, the former seat of the Spanish colonial government, perched high at the entrance to San Juan Bay. The fortress was connected to the coastal wall, and its ancient cannon still pointed outward at the vast sea, a military fortress of its time. In the days of piracy, the Spanish merchant fleet used this place as a base, making it a naturally coveted target. Even the Spanish, as looters, faced the same fate. Retracting his gaze, Lin Hao walked to the center of the lighthouse, lifted his foot, and stomped down hard. The thick soil crumbled, revealing a deep passage. The entire process was silent. Lin Hao jumped first, followed by Jia Ying and the other two. While Lin Hao jumped directly, the other three used levitation equipment brought from the SHIE Bureau. Lin Hao's foot carved a neatly cut passage through the top layer of soil, demonstrating his immense strength and control. After falling more than 10 meters, Jia Ying and the other two came upon a clean, smooth passage, clearly marked by human intervention. It sloped gently, like a pipe sloping down from land to sea. After descending for nearly 20 minutes, Jia Ying and the other two finally reached the bottom. By then, Lin Hao had brought Wanda over and opened the portal. A team of SHIE Bureau operatives were expertly installing lighting equipment. Although located underwater, this underground city boasts excellent ventilation, evidently utilizing advanced alien technology. When the lights came on, a vast underground city emerged before everyone. Its architecture bore distinct Mayan characteristics, primarily constructed of stone. But the gaps between the stones had been smoothed to near invisible depths, making it appear as if the streets and walls were a single, continuous entity. While the aliens lacked advanced tools, their supernatural powers themselves constituted advanced productivity. The buildings on the city's periphery bore distinct Mayan influences, while those in the city's center suddenly took on a sci-fi feel. Illuminated by the light, the unknown metal shone a deep light, its surface bearing patterns reminiscent of those found on obelisks. Despite having existed in this underground city for millennia, it showed no sign of decay, not even a speck of dust. Lin Hao stepped forward, touched the metal, and exclaimed, as expected of a dominant civilization, their technological advancement is evident in every aspect. The SHIE's high-end combat capabilities now rival those of the Kree Empire. Lin Hao, possessing Super Saiyan mode, was confident of defeating the amazing team, created by the Kree's so-called Supreme Intelligence. While Big Mom can fly at the speed of light, Lin Hao can also teleport using magic. As for physical strength and power, only a fight can tell. However, the Kree Empire has developed over millions of years, possessing a technological foundation far superior to Earth's. Even if Lin Hao possesses 3 incompetent brains and can even clone more, he still lags far behind. A civilization's strength isn't just reflected in its high-end combat capabilities and brilliant scientists, it also relies on its grassroots accumulation, and time is a crucial flaw. The Kree have occupied countless resource planets for millions of years, possessing countless special minerals and biological resources. The SHIER currently only has vibranium and Lin Hao's blood body, dragon essence, and other resources to offer. Luckily, I'm cheating. Once I get a 9 transformation golden pill, what will a mere million years of accumulation mean? Gathering his thoughts, Lin Hao instructed Yu Zhen, who had followed him, pack up everything and take it away. Don't leave a single piece of metal behind, okay? Yu Zhen and the other researchers put on rubber gloves. They lacked the unmatched strength of the Great Demon King. The objects left behind by the Kree might, like the obelisk, contain special radiation that could be transmitted through contact and could only be insulated by rubber. The technical development department was busy surveying and installing power sources to facilitate the movement of the structure, while agents from the action team were on guard at the perimeter. Lin Hao led several Inhumans into what the Inhumans called a temple, which was actually the Kree's original laboratory. The interior of the temple appeared empty, save for a single column that seamlessly blended into the ground. If it's a laboratory, why can't I see any experimental equipment? Liu Weiqiang feared that even more Terrigen crystals wouldn't awaken him. He hoped that Lin Hao could find some of the equipment left behind by the aliens and decipher the experimental procedures, which would be a safer bet. Was it moved away by the Inhumans who participated in the experiment back then? They couldn't move it away. Lin Hao shook his head, looked around, and explained, our nanotechnology can form mechanical parts. The Kree's technology is countless generations more advanced than ours. The experimental equipment must have been integrated into the walls and floors. Simply activate the control system and the existing equipment will appear. I wonder if there's an automated machining center. If there's, it would make it much easier to manufacture spacecraft parts in the future. Lin Hao took out a tablet and tapped the screen. The screen lit up, and Arnim Zora, hiding inside, smiled ingratiatingly. Master, try to see if you can crack their system. Receiving the order, Zora sprang into action. Suddenly, a blinding light shone in the laboratory, enveloping Lin Hao and the others in a dark green glow. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 Super Saiyan, Transformation. A green light swept over, only to be blocked by a thin, transparent veil. Before the light appeared, Lin Hao had already activated his iron armor spell, protecting Jia Ying, Liu Weiqiang, and the others. The light dispersed, extending into the distance. The Kree laboratory vanished, revealing a boundless expanse of green space. A large green head suddenly appeared, then transformed into an Asian woman in a cheongsam. Her figure was curvaceous, and the slits of her dress reached all the way to her waist, revealing a glimpse of her white flesh. Supreme wisdom, Lin Hao sneered. What do you mean? Are you saying this is my preference? If you could really read minds, you wouldn't have squinted eyes. You're so fucking rigid. The cheongsam woman, the supreme wisdom, frowned, as if wondering why she had misread. Shouldn't the aesthetic standards of Asians on Earth be the same? How could it be wrong? What caused me to be wrong? No, I'm not wrong. There must be something wrong with this man before me. He doesn't conform to the aesthetic standards of the Asian community. Regardless, since the other party was perverted, she had no choice but to change into someone she liked. The cheongsam-clad woman immediately put on a pair of watery eyes. Lin Hao, a Chinese from Earth, director of SHIE's Technical Development Department, currently director of SWORD, joined SHIE at the age of 18. The cheongsam-clad woman read out Lin Hao's information in a calm tone, speaking clear Mandarin. She had gathered nearly all of Lin Hao's publicly available information. This showed that the Kree had not completely left Earth, and there were still Kree spies lurking on the planet. While they lacked the innate talents of the Skrulls, their technology far surpassed Earth's, making it easy for them to infiltrate various countries and gather intelligence. There were likely even spies within SHIE. If faced with a truly backward planet, the Kree would likely simply treat it as a common resource or, mining it and abandoning or destroying it once the resources were mined. This was standard practice for cosmic civilizations. But Earth was different. As a dominant civilization that had existed for millions of years, they must have known Earth's unique characteristics and that this tiny, broken planet was being watched by countless powerful beings. Even if ordinary Kree people weren't aware of Earth's unique characteristics, the supreme intelligence controlling everything in Kree civilization surely knew. Therefore, it would never give up its observations. If you have something to say it now, Lin Hao glared at him coldly. He claimed to be the brains of the Kree, possessing every ounce of information on the civilization's existence, including information gathered from planets they had conquered or visited. It was even supposed to be able to read the thoughts of those who made contact. But this guy had just given a disgusting squinty look, clearly unable to read Lin Hao's mind. This gave Lin Hao more confidence. Before coming here, he had suspected the Kree might have some backup plan, but he hadn't expected this laboratory, once used to produce failed products, to be connected to the Supreme Intelligence. It seemed the so-called Supreme Intelligence truly controlled everything about the Kree. The Supreme Intelligence heard the sarcasm in Lin Hao's words, and his expression changed. He, accustomed to being superior, had never encountered such humiliation. The cheongsam-clad woman fell silent, her gaze at Lin Hao tinged with coldness and anger. Apparently, this being, forever calm, wise, and absolutely fair in the eyes of the Kree, had at some point acquired human qualities, becoming more human. A man and a woman suddenly appeared in front of the cheongsam woman. The woman had a round face, though that was fine. The man, however, was quite impressive, a gentlemanly Englishman with vague resemblances to the Soviet sniper Vasily, Holmes' assistant Watson, and a young Dumbledore. The two Captain Marvels, materialized by the Supreme Intelligence, rushed towards Lin Hao like puppets, mindless and controlled by it. "Gordon, get them away," Lin Hao shouted, charging towards the two Captain Marvels. The Pancake Woman and the British man raised their glowing fists and struck Lin Hao. Lin Hao was undeterred, channeling his armament Haki, Conqueror Haki, and the energy of the Dragon Balls into his fists. He then channeled his limited chakra into his steel fists, employing every possible means to increase his attack power. Relying on his observation haki to predict the trajectory of their attacks, he struck one punch after another, clashing fiercely. With a loud bang, a shockwave exploded. The Pancake Woman and the British man retreated only 2 steps, but Lin Hao retreated over 10 meters. It seems normal mode won't work. With a thought, Lin Hao's energy suddenly surged, forming a shimmering golden aura. Countless golden lightning bolts swirled around him. His muscles swelled, their structures defined like rock. His hair stood up, turning golden, while his eyes transformed into azure blue gemstones. Super Saiyan, transform. His aura alone created a massive shockwave, forcing the Pancake Woman and the British man back several steps. The Cheongsam Woman, transformed by the Supreme Wisdom, finally changed color. This surge of energy was beyond his expectations. It wasn't the amount of energy, but its nature. What kind of energy is this? Where does it come from? The universe is infinite. Even a dominant civilization like the Kree couldn't claim to fully understand it. However, over the past millions of years, the star regions the Kree have explored are countless times more vast than anything Earthlings can observe with their equipment. The sudden appearance of an energy even he had never seen before naturally caught the eye of the Supreme Intelligence. Round 2 begins. Lin Hao flashed, appearing directly before the 2 generations of Captain Marvel. With one punch, he sent each man flying before they could react. Tough, interesting, no wonder she can fly at the speed of light. I knew it. If her body wasn't strong enough, she would have fallen apart long ago. Taking a quick glance, Lin Hao suddenly charged at the Pancake Girl, swinging his fists and repeatedly striking at her face. He struck her in the face, and he killed her by destroying her heart. The Great Demon King's original intention remained unchanged. After a few seconds, the pancake face grew larger, and blood flowed from its nostrils and eyes. It was clearly an illusion manifested by the Supreme Intelligence, yet it possessed the strength and physical form of the original. In the distance, the first Captain Marvel rushed to the rescue, forcing Lin Hao to free one hand and unleash a dragon-shaped Kigen wave. However, the Pancake Woman, pinned to the ground, seized the opportunity to extend her legs and lock onto Lin Hao's other hand. Using the momentum, she lifted her up her body, sat on his shoulders, and brought down a glowing fist on Lin Hao's head. Lin Hao had no time to escape, so he employed a technique he had practiced for years, 6 styles of paper drawing, to transform his head into a swaying strand of kelp, swaying back and forth with the Pancake Woman's relentless punches. Simultaneously, his locked right hand swivels from below to reach the Pancake Woman's lower back, unleashing a dragon-shaped Kigen wave that slammed into her. I'm so sorry, this past week has been incredibly busy. I couldn't find time to write during the day, so I had to rush home to write at night. When I wrote about Jia Ying's fate in chapter 184, I had no problem with it, as I clearly remembered Marvel had played us wrong in this setting. In the 1980s, foreign militias infiltrated the heart of Funan, capturing and massacring the village. As soon as I posted it, someone reminded me that Jia Ying was captured in 1945. So I went to check out the episode by episode of Agents of SHIELD, Season 2, Episode 8, since I didn't have time to watch the video. The episode begins with Jia Ying being captured in 1945, but Hydra is soon destroyed, and Whitehole is imprisoned in a rat prison. 44 years later, in 1989, his men once again captured Jia Ying and other elderly villagers in Funan, and the village massacre also took place around that time. So, if I'm not mistaken, Marvel did use this to insult our border guards. Chapter 184 was constantly being revised, and many comments disappeared. To clarify this plot and avoid further mistakes, I stayed up late yesterday watching several episodes of Marvel's Agents of SHIELD. Everyone at work was completely confused during the day. Chapter 191 Endless Battle. A massive explosion ripped through the Pancake Woman, injuring her internal organs and causing her to spit out a mouthful of blood. Lin Hao seized the opportunity to grab her and flung her towards the British man, who was charging forward once more. He vanished from his position, then teleported back above the point where the two had collided. Dragon-shaped Kigen wave slammed down like mad. The divine dragon swings its tail, the black dragon steals the heart, 2 dragons emerge from the sea, a dragon is seen in the field, dragons soar and phoenixes dance, the tiger is subdued, the dragon is shrunk to an inch, dragons and snakes mingle, descendants of the dragon. Dragons and phoenixes bring good luck. The dragon and horse are full of vigor. After striking down one palm after another, Lin Hao raised his hands high, gathering a vast golden aura and pressing it down fiercely. A lifelike golden dragon, its scales distinct, its claws sharp, its mouth wide open, a silent roar, and pounced. "We're done." Lin Hao dodged, reappearing in the distance, clapped his hands, and turned gracefully. A true man never glanced back at an explosion. With a resounding boom, the shockwaves spread out in all directions. Jia Ying and the others, hiding at least 100 kilometers away, were caught on the shockwave and resigned themselves to the ground. Liu Weiqiang, untrained in supernatural skills, was thrown back, only for Gordon to pull him back. "Is the director so formidable?" Liu Weiqiang gasped, his eyes wide open before a fierce desire shone through. "Director, I want to learn supernatural skills too." At that moment, he felt that awakening superpowers was no longer important. Even without them, practicing supernatural skills would still make him stronger. It was unknown how the Supreme Wisdom had constructed this space. After being bombarded by the Super Saiyan Lin Hao's kicking waves, the ground remained impenetrable, not even a crack or crater. At the center of the explosion, the two Captain Marvels lay in a rather miserable state, their clothing peeling off, revealing their bloodied bodies, though their wounds were minor. A moment later, they both stood up again. Lin Hao, still in his Super Saiyan form, frowned slightly. This was a space created by the Supreme Intelligence. The Pancake Woman and the British Man were its manifested tools, meaning it could repair their injuries and restore them to their full state at any time. Sure enough, they returned to their original form in the blink of an eye and continued charging towards Lin Hao. Annoying. Just treat me as sparring partners. Lin Hao charged forward once more. Possessing the power of time, he could also restore himself, unafraid of a protracted battle. Having copied the Saiyan's abilities, Lin Hao could not only tap into his Super Saiyan mode through the power of time, but also possessed the ability to automatically increase his strength with every all-out battle or training. The two invincible monsters before him served as perfect sparring partners. The longer they fought, the greater their strength grew. After about an hour, Lin Hao, who had initially had a slight advantage, was now completely overpowering both Captain Marvels. The Pancake Woman and the British Man were gradually rendered powerless by him. Whether due to stubbornness or a desire to save face, the Supreme Intelligence didn't allow the two to exploit their speed advantage, instead engaging Lin Hao in a head-on physical confrontation. If Captain Marvel exploited her light speed advantage, Lin Hao would have to use constant teleportation to reach her. Once he'd reached the limit of his magical power, he wouldn't even be able to catch her. Lightspeed flight granted Captain Marvel exceptional mobility. If Big Mom Marvel were there, she'd likely flee when she saw she couldn't win. Seeing that two tools weren't enough, the Supreme Intelligence materialized two more pairs, 3 men and 3 women, to attack Lin Hao. Fuck! The sudden surge of pressure overwhelmed Lin Hao, who was struck repeatedly by luminous fists. Teleporting out of the encirclement, Lin Hao wiped the blood from his mouth and activated his time power again, directly capturing his Super Saiyan 4 form. His blonde hair returned to black, extending his length and creating a bold hairstyle. A red aura enveloped him. Because the cheat only replicated the Saiyan's characteristics and didn't retain the monkey's tail, Lin Hao's Super Saiyan 4 form lacked a tail and red hair. After taking a look around, Lin Hao thankfully said, Fortunately, it didn't turn into something ominous. This was the limit of what he could achieve with the power of time. Other Super Saiyans, including divine and demonic versions, color versions, advanced versions, full power versions, and even super full power versions, could not be intercepted. There were so many Super Saiyan versions, far beyond Sai's original creation, that Lin Hao hadn't even seen them all. Without a clear concept in his mind, no corresponding future branch would appear, and thus no one could intercept them. Fortunately, Super Saiyan 4 was many times stronger than Super Saiyan 1, more than enough to deal with the Pancake Girl in the British male team. The 3 men and 3 women were instantly at a disadvantage against Lin Hao in his Super Saiyan 4 state, unable to even put any pressure on him. Supreme Wisdom, as expected, was incredibly stubborn, manifesting 10 more pairs of men and women and pouncing on him. Feeling his growing strength, even without the power of time, Lin Hao had the accumulation needed to transform into Super Saiyan 1. What the hell is this guy trying to do? As the battle became increasingly relaxed, Lin Hao had time to ponder the Supreme Intelligence's intentions. Suddenly appearing and attacking without a word, is it trying to gather intelligence on me? Lin Hao considered this possibility. Even the Eye of Heimdall couldn't see Lin Hao's actions in the dimension linked to the imp, so surely the Kree spies on Earth couldn't see either. It made sense that the Supreme Intelligence, the leader of the Kree civilization, would suddenly discover that this mysterious figure, Lin Hao, had broken into the Kree laboratory on Earth and take the opportunity to connect with him and test him for intelligence. But is it really that simple? His thoughts raced, but his hands never stopped moving. The two sides fought for several more hours, and Lin Hao couldn't help but feel a little irritated. Although his strength was growing, he was effectively trapped in this dimension. It was like strange trapping Dormammu with a time stone. Wait, this thing is a life computer, so isn't that a living being? Lin Hao suddenly realized. In the setting, the Supreme Intelligence is a living computer created by the Kree, embodying their highest wisdom, encompassing all aspects of science, philosophy, military affairs, and thought. The Kree believe it can replace their former rulers because it is selfless, absolutely fair, and efficient. With the Supreme Intelligence, Kree civilization truly entered a period of rapid development. Life became efficient for the Kree, with everything perfectly arranged and effortless. The Kree simply studied and worked as expected, serving as cogs in society. With no crime, no waste, and no internal conflict, the Kree were able to devote all their resources to space exploration and the pursuit of supremacy. Consequently, the Supreme Intelligence gradually gained the Kree's trust and became their de facto ruler. If the Supreme Intelligence could remain in place, the Kree civilization would at best become a stagnant state, like the Helium Star civilization. But he has human nature, and has learned anger, happiness, sadness, and jealousy. Friendly reminder, this book is written behind the scenes, and the main contradiction has been revealed, so there is no collapse caused by the protagonist's combat power. You can say that I have fewer fancy moves, but there is really no collapse of combat power. Chapter 192, Supreme Wisdom. During the battle, Lin Hao unleashed an invisible little demon and ordered, "Go, stab that gossip." Since the opponent was a so-called life computer, the bleeding might have been voluntary. The little demon rushed forward, raising the fork in its right hand and stabbing it at the Cheongsam woman's hand, its left hand clutching the parchment. It had become familiar with its master's controls and often practiced with them when it had nothing else to do. In the distance, the Cheongsam woman, transformed by the supreme wisdom, showed a look of surprise. She looked down at her hand, which was bleeding. Before she could react, she felt something invisible covering her bleeding hand. The contract was successful. Lin Hao, in the midst of the battle, was stunned for the first time, as he hadn't accessed any memories. In the blink of an eye, this space vanished as abruptly as it had appeared, and the Cheongsam woman and a dozen Captain Marvels vanished. Lin Hao returned to the Kree laboratory in the underground city, accompanied by Jia Ying, Liu Weiqiang, and the others who had retreated far away. As soon as they appeared, Wanda rushed over, crying, "Brother Lin, where have you been for these 6 hours, 43 minutes, and 52 seconds? I'm so scared. I looked everywhere, but I couldn't find you." Lin Hao patted her back and soothed her. "It's okay, I'm fine." Zheng Xian also came over and asked with concern, "Who is it?" Lin Hao replied, "The Kree Supreme Intelligence has somehow suddenly crawled over here along the network cable." Zheng Xian suddenly realized, "I know something about it. It can create a special space, equivalent to an independent dimension. Although it's unstable and can't be transformed into a dimensional space, it's even more bizarre and difficult to defend against. The apparition and disapparition in Harry Potter can only be used within the same dimension." After all, Ms. Rowling hadn't mastered the concept of a multiverse, unlike the portals in Kamartaj that can connect to other dimensions. If Wanda had been imprisoned by the Supreme Intelligence, she could have simply opened the portal and escaped. But Lin Hao couldn't learn the magic of the Marvel Universe. Another day of resentment against the dimensional demon. "It's okay. He can't do anything to me." Lin Hao patted Wanda again, then looked up and instructed his assistant standing beside him, "Aftershock, take the lab back." Given this development, Lin Hao had no intention of studying the Kree's experimental data on Inhumans here. He planned to dismantle the entire lab and move it to the dimension linked to the imp to continue his research. Only there could he guarantee that no one could crawl through the network cables. SWIE had already absorbed some of the alien technology sent by Odin, making dismantling the Kree's 1,400-year-old lab a piece of cake. In another country, The worst they would do was violent destruction. During the dismantling process, they found numerous high-purity Terrigen crystals. Undeterred, Liu Weiqiang volunteered to help carry them, but he still couldn't activate his superpowers. What the hell? Seeing Liu Weiqiang's dejected expression, Lin Hao suddenly realized a possibility. Could he be the Supreme Intelligence's true target? This thought suddenly occurred to Lin Hao, who recalled the comic's original purpose for the Kree's experiments on the Inhumans, not only to increase battlefield cannon fodder, but also to study and prevent possible stagnation in their own evolution. While biological evolution is a lengthy process, it's undeniable that intelligent life on every planet is constantly evolving, adapting to the changes of nature, without stopping. However, the genes of any organism may become shackled after countless changes, even losing their potential. Of course, the fundamental principles of adaptation to the environment remain unchanged. However, intelligent life has its own aspirations. For example, terrestrial organisms wouldn't consider evolving aquatic organs until the land was completely submerged, forcing them to evolve in that direction, and vice versa. Humans, for example, have gradually realized that the resources of a single planet are insufficient to sustain future development. Therefore, they look to the heavens and the stars, inevitably hoping to evolve bodies adapted to cosmic survival. The more advanced a civilization, the more it seeks to control the direction of its own evolution and overcome any potential obstacles along the way. Could it be that Liu Weiqiang harbors the secrets of the Kree's genetic evolution, leading the Supreme Intelligence to deliberately come here to divert attention and confuse the public? With many thoughts in mind, after Yu Zhen and his team dismantled the Kree laboratory, Lin Hao returned to his underground manor in San Francisco with the parts. After sending the others away, Lin Hao instructed the little devil to open the light portal and enter a special dimension. Tell me, did it work? Lin Hao inquired about the results of his recent poke. The feedback was truly bizarre, success at first, but then the Supreme Wisdom Soul was suddenly washed clean. Woo 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 woo, the little demon, bewildered, shook the parchment in frustration, flinging the souls within. One black, one white. The black one was Will Fortson, long forgotten by Lin Hao, the user of the artificial Black Panther fruit who had perished at T'Chaka's hands. The white one, however, was a pure white soul, or rather, a special consciousness. Lin Hao examined the pure white mass, unable to decipher any memories. Strange, Lin Hao muttered to himself, could it be the rebirth of a severed tail? Master, can I eat it? Arnim Zola suddenly emerged from his electronic device, revealing his spirit form. He approached the pure white soul, swallowing saliva. Eat, Lin Hao was startled, then quickly realized, it's an electronic program. It's very nourishing for you. Yes, it's like a delicious treat, tempting me. Zora swallowed. I understand. The Supreme Intelligence's main body is far away on Kree. This is just a subprogram. The moment it encounters danger, it will instantly disconnect and reboot. The Supreme Intelligence is a living computer, possessing the characteristics of both a living being and an electronic program, similar to Zora, but Zora's performance is far inferior. In the moment of danger, the Supreme Intelligence's main body, far away on Kree, decisively severed contact, and most likely even reformatted itself. Lin Hao believed the little demon's power was unstoppable. After all, there had been no accidents so far. However, after reformatting, the electronic life form had essentially become another life form, equivalent to having died once before. Upon discovering that the subprogram had been contracted, the Supreme Intelligence's main body decisively committed suicide, leaving Lin Hao with only the subprogram's consciousness. Alright, I've always been the one to cause bugs before. This is the first time someone else has, Lin Hao chuckled. Next time I go back to where your original body is, I'll see how you can escape. Go eat. Lin Hao waved at Zora. One similar electronic life form was enough, and since they could devour each other and upgrade, Lin Hao naturally wouldn't be stingy. Will you still be you after the fusion, Master? Don't worry. This consciousness has been cleansed and won't affect me. Chapter 193 Grandma Ao enters the Grandview Garden. In the dimension linked to the little devil, Arnim Zora pounced on the white consciousness, his mouth open and biting it like a piece of bread. Logically, the Supreme Intelligence was countless orders of magnitude more powerful than Zora's, and even consuming electronic life forms would be difficult. Like running current software on a 1970s device, it would simply freeze and crash. But this massive subprograms had been reformatted and contracted by the little devil, and Lin Hao also had absolute control over it. He could not resist and could only be devoured. It didn't take long for Zora to devour it. His ugly face lit up with joy. "Master, my program has been upgraded. Can you manifest a pancake face like he?" Lin Hao was more concerned about this. If you could, he would have a regular place to grind experience. "Sorry, Master, the data is all blank, no information," Zora said truthfully, but quickly added, "But I can create space and manifest characters like he." As he spoke, Zora waved his hand, and a pure white space emerged. Two humanoid figures also appeared in pure white. "Since Master bestowed upon me the spirit particle, I've been able to break free from the constraints of hardware. This time, even after the program upgrade, it can still function perfectly." Lin Hao nodded. Zora's current state is more unique than any other electronic lifeform. He possesses both a soul and the added bonus of spirit particles. His spirit body is the equivalent of his hardware. Even though Earth's electronic hardware lags far behind that of Kree, Zora can perfectly utilize the Supreme Wisdom subprogram he devoured through his spirit body. But there's a problem. Lin Hao stepped forward and punched the two pure white tool figures. Their toughness was sufficient, and under Zora's control, they could burst forth with speed and power comparable to Big Mom's. However, within a minute, the two pure white tool figures dissipated. "Sorry, Master, my Reiatsu is insufficient." Zora looked ashamed, terrified that he hadn't satisfied his master. Electronic lifeforms are not only constrained by hardware and software, but also by energy. Lin Hao had no choice but to pull over the Odin-branded Reiatsu charger to fully charge Zora. This was Odin's first time entering the dimension linked to the imp. Currently, only contracted souls or individuals were being brought in, as their survival depended solely on Lin Hao's whim. Furthermore, Lin Hao speculated that all souls bound by demonic contracts were no longer under the control of the Marvel Universe. After all, the status of the cheat was paramount. "So you've been operating here all along?" Gazing at the endless darkness in the distance, Odin couldn't help but sigh. No wonder Heimdall couldn't see you. As the imp continued to move through, the illuminated area within the space grew larger, spreading outward from the light gate. Lin Hao divided these illuminated areas into fan-shaped zones with different functions: experimental areas and warehouses, a fire unicorn breeding farm, a blood bodhi plantation, and the activity areas of the 7 dragons, who would occasionally enter to perform operations. Each functional area gradually expanded into the darker areas as the light brightened. Now, after Lin Hao had packed up the Kree laboratory and brought it over, he had also dedicated a section of the experimental area to research alien civilizations. "Recharge Zora's Reiatsu first." Hearing this, Odin approached Zora and began charging him. Zora felt a sense of relief as the energy surged through his body. Once fully charged, he entered the reassembled Kree laboratory and activated its control system. The previously empty room suddenly erupted with liquid metal from the walls and floor, forming various devices. "Master, this database has also been formatted," Zora grimaced, feeling like he had done nothing to help his master. With the power and responsiveness of Supreme Wisdom, even a subroutine could be erased in record time with a single command. Fortunately, Lin Hao possessed the power of time. He approached the metal block storing the data and applied it to it, restoring it to its pre-formatted state. While the written language, code, and even programming logic were products of Kree civilization, they proved no match for Lin Hao's unruly mind. He had already learned the Kree language through materials sent by Odin and had obtained numerous Kree technological products from the cosmic black market. Through research, he had deciphered the Kree programming methods. Sure enough, their goal isn't just to create cannon fodder, they want to evolve. Lin Hao set to work. First, he used the blood he'd drawn from Liu Weiqiang to clone his body, then reverse-engineered the clone's genes using the experimental records left by the Kree. Go, called Bulma and Vegapunk, Lin Hao activated an intelligent robot. The space link to the imp had no means of communication with the outside world, relying solely on traditional messaging. Seeing Lin Hao busy, Odin took in the surroundings. Although contracted by Lin Hao, he retained a basic respect for the God King, more like an irresistible partnership. "Is this a Killen?" Odin gazed at the alien beasts busying themselves beneath the rows of grape trellises, unable to conceal his surprise. He saw that each of these beasts had a small knife, consciously cutting through the flesh of their forelimbs, which was noticeably more tender than the rest of the body, and dripping the blood onto the grapevines. The bright red blood was instantly absorbed by the vines, and the blood-red grapes glowed brilliantly. Each fire killing had a scar on its forelimb, uncovered by its scales. Each time, they would cut open the wound and squeeze out the blood. Hurry up, don't be lazy. Justin Hammer had been appointed foreman of the fire kiln farm, managing all the fire kiln transformed by European and American capitalists. As the first dog to lick Lin Hao's boots, he enjoyed a small privilege: no more bleeding. The wound on his forelimb had long since healed, and new scales had grown, looking indistinguishable from the ones nearby. Since then, little Jiazi has devoted himself even more to his master, diligently managing the farm and plantation. These fire kiln were once powerful capitalists. Justin Hammer had once had to beg them for scraps, but now he could lash out at them like a farm steward whipping a slave. He loved this feeling. Serving as Director Lin's dog was the greatest blessing of his life. Seeing these dog-like, human-like killing, Odin seemed to understand Lin Hao's intention and couldn't help but laugh. It's true karma, retribution. The white bandits on Earth have been plundering, killing, and pillaging, exploiting farmers and workers both in ancient and modern times. Countless corpses lie buried in the soil of every plantation. Continuing forward, Odin unexpectedly saw the dragon of Chinese legend. Not the winged lizard dragon he'd seen before, but a divine dragon that perfectly matched the legends of Chinese civilization. I never thought such a dragon could actually exist. Odin had seen many creatures named dragon before, and even knew of an alien race that closely resembled the image of Earth's winged lizard dragons. But he had never seen a true dragon from Chinese mythology. Not even in the so-called Heavenly Palace, the Marvel Universe had never seen a legitimate Chinese divine dragon. Even the so-called divine dragon of Taro Village was at most an unsightly, vicious dragon. The twitching azure dragon on the ground turned its head and glared at Odin. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a handsome guy? Chapter 194 Captain, America needs your butt. Ever since Lin Hao exposed Nick Fury's collusion with the Skrulls, the world's 5 major powers have been alerted to the alien threat, leading to the establishment of SWORD. Faced with this alien threat, the leaders of the 5 major powers weren't simply pinning their hopes on a bunch of clowns in tights, as depicted in comics and television. They were all busy searching for any signs of the supernatural within their respective spheres of influence, attempting to strengthen their own capabilities. SWOR was taking action, and so was Valentina de La Fontaine, backed by an American consortium, and even more aggressively. Her financial backers, feeling insecure, constantly pressed her. If it weren't for her considerable abilities and the lack of a replacement, she would have been abandoned long ago. New Orleans. Captain, the target has appeared. At your 4 o'clock position, Crossbones Brock Rumlow warned the Fey Captain over the communicator. The Fey Captain, dressed in tracksuit and sunglasses, sat in an outdoor cafe on the street. Looking in the direction Crossbones pointed, he saw a blonde woman in her 20s. Are you sure she's our target this time? The Fey Captain frowned. She looks so young. Yes, Marie Adler, just like the photo in the file, Crossbones replied. The Fey Captain had been with us HIELD the shortest time, and since the world believed Captain America couldn't be Hydra, his scrutiny was over long ago. However, he didn't join SWORD as a patriot, he only wanted to serve America. He had joined SHIELD because it was founded by Peggy Carter and completely controlled by America. Now that SHIELD had vanished, he was unsure of his place in this era. That was until Valentina approached him, urging him to lead a special operations team, promising that all members would be American and utterly loyal to the American government. When she presented him with documents signed by the Pentagon, Congress, and even the President, the Fey Captain believed her and joined. He also invited his good friend and comrade, Crossbones. After consulting with Alexander Pierce's clone, Crossbones complied, and they continued their partnership. Crossbones also loved this feeling of being sober while everyone else was drunk. Besides their 2 golden partners, the team also included Adam Smith, the Red Swordsman, Jack White Dog, Sam Wilson, and a group of cannon fodder who had been exposed to a defective replica of the super soldier serum. The reason for their trip to New Orleans was that Valentina's intelligence team, while collecting information on unusual events in the United States, had identified a suspect, the young Mary Adler. The information indicates that Miss Mary suddenly withdrew from high school due to illness at the age of 15. Her parents didn't explain their daughter's whereabouts to friends and family, simply saying she was traveling abroad for medical treatment. Sam Wilson, holding another position, reported the recorded information on the communicator. 4 years later, last year, she returned to New Orleans. Miss Mary didn't look for a job, but was incredibly busy, returning only 1 day a week to be with her family. As for the other 6 days, there was no trace of her on any of the local New Orleans surveillance footage. Coincidentally, we spotted her on surveillance footage in New York, but there's no record of her purchasing any train, plane, or boat tickets. And she doesn't even have a driver's license. An image appeared on the fake captain's sunglasses, showing the target walking hurriedly through the streets of New York, dressed in a maroon hooded trench coat. So the intelligence team suspects she has psychic powers, or at least has had contact with him, Sam concluded. A special airborne soldier, Sam had recently retired from the Marines. He had witnessed the death of his comrades, leaving him traumatized. He had planned to return to work at the Veterans Affairs office in Washington, but he unexpectedly met the fake captain. Unwilling to be alone, he was eventually persuaded by the fake captain. Of course, he only wanted to serve the American government, not any individual or group. Only after seeing the official certification provided by Valentina did he decide to join. As a pawn of the American consortium, Valentina was undoubtedly a staunch elite eagle, with no chance of being bribed by other forces. You mean the consortium? Haha, isn't America the consortium's America? Who else do you think America belongs to? The working people? Captain, go ahead, Crossbones said through the communicator. Use your beauty to give her a pleasant weekend. America needs your sacrifice. Shit, Brock, why don't you go? The fake captain was bewildered. If I could have your American hips, believe me, I wouldn't pass up this opportunity, Crossbones teased. Yet, if she were a black woman, I wouldn't let you compete with me either, Sam chimed in. With his two friends urging him on, the fake captain had no choice but to bite the bullet and stand up, deliberately running towards Mary Adler. They all knew what America was facing, and as patriots, they desperately wanted to strengthen America's extraordinary foundation. This was different from the Super British Registration Act. That was a restriction placed on superhumans by the world, so Steve Rogers, who championed American freedom, was unwilling to sign it and even threatened to resist. Now, led by the 5 major nations, each country is valuing the role of superhumans, hoping to recruit them to strengthen its defenses against aliens. This wasn't a restriction, but rather a service to the nation and the Earth. The fake captain, possessing the same character as the real Steve, understood the difference and would lead the charge on the front lines against the aliens. With a unified external pressure, internal conflicts would naturally be subconsciously suppressed. Hey, is that something you dropped? The fake captain caught up with the blonde and patted her shoulder. Oh, my, the two friends behind him slapped their foreheads. Sam complained, isn't anyone training him on how to approach girls? Crossbones smiled wryly. What a waste of his American hips. Mary turned to look at the fake captain, and, recognizing his handsomeness, smiled and chimed in, are you doing archaeology? What? The fake captain was stunned. He wasn't indoctrinated like the real captain. While he'd been constantly learning about modern society, there was still so much to learn, especially with the rapid pace of internet memes. However, a handsome man with both good looks and good figures always elicited more patience from women, and the same was true for men. Besides, the fake captain's behavior had a certain air of innocence that suited Mary's taste. So, naturally, she responded, even though it's not mine, I don't mind if you buy me a cup of coffee. Even if the fake captain was slow to react, he knew the beauty trap had worked. Chapter 195 Captain America's Night Meeting with Magical Girl. The upright false captain ultimately declined Marie Adler's invitation to go stargazing in the suburbs. What a shame. After returning to the safe house in New Orleans, Crossbones teased the false captain, you should have agreed. Maybe we could have gotten more information. No, she may be young, but she's a determined person. The false captain shook his head and explained, after talking to her, I'm convinced she's no ordinary girl. Her physique is clearly the product of professional training, her hands are calloused from years of practice, and her demeanor is military-like, with very decisive words and actions. While the false captain wasn't a professional agent, he had learned some observational skills from his time on the battlefield, similar to that of a special reconnaissance trooper. She's probably got a problem. Now we need to find out what it is, supernatural powers or magic. Valentina de la Fontaine reports directly to the consortium behind the scenes, with access to intelligence from almost every department in the United States. Their dispatch meant Marie didn't receive her training domestically, otherwise, there would have been no need for such a fuss. Send someone to pretend to be a thief and go to his house. Crossbones' style was unrestrained. Who? Sam frowned. Ordinary people would shoot a thief. If she's truly a transcendent, anyone who goes there will have a very high chance of dying. The key is that if they die, they'll be charged with a crime and won't be able to apply for pensions. I'll go myself. The Fey captain would never sacrifice his companions in such a situation. There were only 3 of them, along with a team of modified individuals who had been exposed to a defective version of the super soldier serum. Red Swordsman and White Dog were on other missions. Valentina cast a wide net, feeling short of manpower, and wouldn't go all out until she had firm intelligence. Since the captain had made his decision, the team had no choice but to follow. Of them, the captain had the best chance of success. Mary lived in a small villa with a garden near the suburbs, a typical apartment type in the area, favoring high-income families. It was clear her parents were well off. After nightfall, they arrived in front of and behind Mary's house in 3 black commercial vehicles. The Fey captain flung open a car door and darted out. With a single hurdle, he leaped over the modest iron gate and landed on the garden lawn. Following the location indicated by intelligence, he carefully climbed up to the east window on the 2nd floor, expertly pried the lock, and slipped inside. But the moment he entered, a golden rope of light swung out and bound his feet. You didn't agree to go stargazing, but you came to pry open the window instead. Your preferences are quite unique. Young Mary lost her meaningful smile, becoming cold and wary. This is it. The false captain observed the golden rope carefully, noting runes flowing along it. It's magic. While Americans didn't know much about magic, when Hogwarts first opened, a dark wizard had caused trouble. Though the encounter was brief, it showed the world what magic could be like and made them remember the name of Camartage. Are you a dark wizard from Camartage? The false captain's words immediately broke Mary's defenses. You're the dark wizard. Your whole family is. Mary, overcome with emotion, like a wronged child, argued. Camartage is the front line protecting Earth. For centuries, the Sorcerer Supreme has been fighting the invasion of dimensional demons to protect Earth. She had been chosen by Camartage's magicians when she was still a young girl, brought home and carefully trained, and had long considered Camartage her home. Faced with slander, it was only natural to stand up and refute it. The false captain, clutching his shield, hesitated to act, but instead offered gentle persuasion. But Headmaster Tom of Hogwarts said you were dark wizards. That day, the whole world saw the wizards of Camartage attack Hogwarts. That's slander, Mary cried, the most vicious slander against Camartage. But the wizard who was restrained ended up summoning a terrifying demon. The false captain, lying on the floor, studied Mary with interest. Couldn't that wizard be from Camartage? This, Mary faltered. She couldn't deny Caecilius's identity, nor could she lie and deny Dormammu's nature. Seeing her clearly angry but helpless, the Fey captain smiled and said, I think this is perfectly normal. Every organization has its share of people, both good and bad, so I hope the magicians of Camartage will stand up and explain their position to the world. The Fey captain swung his shield, severing the yellow cord of light, and stood up. The American government and people will accept you with tolerance and vindicate you. You wouldn't want a cause you've fought for to be smeared, would you? Honestly, Steve Rogers was a perfect political officer. He always relied on him to rally the troops and cheer on the Avengers in times of trouble. Perfectly replicating the true Captain America, the Fey captain easily dealt with the inexperienced young woman. Besides, as an American, Mary had her own opinions. If Camartage could stand up and cooperate with the U.S., she wouldn't have to hide her work from her friends and family. Her current elusiveness and lack of a proper job had already attracted gossip. Even a former high school classmate brazenly approached her to ask how much she charged per night. Gossip isn't just for Chinese people, it's a common trait among all humans on Earth. Seeing Mary's interest, the Fey captain handed her a business card and said kindly, I hope you'll discuss this with the magicians at Camartage when you return. If you've made a decision, call me. With that, the Fey captain jumped out the window and returned the way he'd come. 3 black vans then drove away. However, they didn't notice the figure that had appeared on the rooftop across from Mary's house. Gordon activated his ability, teleporting away. Captain America and a magician, this was crucial information, so he quickly reported it to Jia Ying. As the search radar of the Inhumans, Gordon often travels around the world. In addition to the mutual hints from the obelisks, he sometimes relies on the method of finding a needle in a haystack to search for his compatriots. However, his visit to New Orleans this time was for a purpose. because Lin Hao told Jia Ying that her daughter Daisy Johnson was living in New Orleans with her boyfriend during this period. So Gordon took the initiative to come here to look for someone, but unexpectedly found Captain America chatting up a young girl on the side of the road, so he followed him all the way and witnessed their night meeting. After getting the information, Lin Hao, who was still busy in the laboratory, his eyes gradually brightened. Interesting, I suddenly had a new idea. Chapter 196. A Happy Family. Gordon, Jia Ying, and Calvin Zabo appeared outside a New Orleans apartment. Sky's upstairs with her boyfriend, Gordon warned. We need to hurry. Director Lin's waiting. Why come so late? Calvin frantically fixed his sleeves and collar, feeling uneasy and nervous. No, it's not that I don't want to see Daisy. God, only he knows how much I miss Daisy, but I think we should make a good impression. A formal visit during the day, or at least before dinner. Calvin's mumbling had become incoherent. Enough, Jia Ying snapped coldly. We don't have that much time. Her feelings for Calvin were now complicated, a mixture of gratitude for his past actions and the heartache and anger she felt at the prospect of the future. She might still have feelings, but the deep hatred she harbored made it impossible for Jia Ying to face this American man calmly. She had initially believed her suffering was solely the fault of Hydra, but she hadn't realized it stemmed from American arrogance and prejudice. This instilled in her aversion to everything associated with America, regardless of the universe. The three of them went straight upstairs. Calvin was overcome with emotion and incoherent, while Jia Ying's face remained stern. Seeing this, Gordon had no choice but to knock on the door himself. The door opened, revealing a white, bearded man, shirtless, who regarded the three with a wary eye. Who are you looking for? Calvin looked down at the man's hastily thrown pants, and then he raged. Asshole, what did you do to my Daisy? He punched him. It was a wonder an old father could hold back when his little girl was being gouged. Oh, shit, the bearded man shouted, clutching his bleeding nose. Are you crazy? In the bedroom, Sky, a Chinese-American man, who had heard the commotion outside, quickly threw on a loose t-shirt and emerged. It was clear they had just been engaged in a vigorous workout. Seeing her boyfriend being beaten, she immediately rushed to the phone, intending to call the police. Gordon had no choice but to step forward and stop her. Such a bizarre family reunion scene made him smile bitterly and scratch his head. Jia Ying walked in calmly, closing the door behind her. She first glanced at her daughter, a hint of longing in her eyes, but quickly looked away, looking at the bearded man and speaking coldly. Miles Layton, hacker, once broke into the Great Mao Palace and released photos of the Emperor on horseback. Who are you? Miles and Sky asked almost at the same time. Daisy, Calvin looked at his daughter, tears welling in his eyes. He's your father, and I'm your mother, Jia Ying said straight to the point. Huh? Miles and Sky were both stunned. You must be kidding, you look younger than Sky? Miles told the truth, without a single will to live. Hey, Sky shot him a death stare, then glared at Jia Ying and Calvin. I won't allow you to joke about my parents, get out of here now, or I'll call the police. Jia Ying suddenly began to sing a Funan folk song, a lullaby she'd sung for her daughter. Sky was startled by the familiar melody. Why are you singing that song? It was a memory etched in her mind from her childhood, never shared, and the only memory Sky had of her parents. That's the lullaby I sang to you when you were little. Jia Ying gave her daughter a deep look, a look of longing, sadness, and even more helplessness and turmoil. If Lin Hao hadn't said he needed her daughter, Jia Ying wouldn't have even bothered to come for the mother-daughter reunion. If you need more evidence, we can go to the hospital with you for a DNA test, you guys. Sky fell silent in shock. Her mind was swirling. Anyone who hadn't seen their parents for over 20 years would be stunned if a stranger suddenly burst into their home and claimed to be their parents. We'll talk about your business later. Jia Ying looked back at Miles, her eyes cold. You originally lived in Austin, Texas, but quickly moved to New Orleans after the incident there. This hacker used his skills to hack into the Texas government systems, finding a large number of images and videos, and then selling them to organizations in other countries for money. What are you talking about? Sky asked her boyfriend in disbelief. Is she telling the truth? Sky, are you crazy? Miles roared. I'm your boyfriend, and you're willing to trust a burglar over me. Shut up. Don't you dare say anything bad about my daughter. Calvin swung his fist again, another precise hit on his nose. Not only did he sell the hacked data, but he also helped the U.S. government block news and clean up the internet during the unrest in Houston, Eliminating a large amount of information reporting on the chaos there, Jia Ying stabbed him again. Regardless of her attitude towards her daughter, she was still her daughter after all. Jia Ying didn't want her to be associated with a hypocritical, unmoored, and money-driven man. Miles, is what she said true? Sky demanded angrily. Don't you have a brain? Jia Ying glared at her daughter and said angrily, he has been spending money lavishly recently. He even took you to rent a high-end apartment and eat luxurious dinners. Where does the money come from? What the hell are you thinking? Sky rushed up, grabbed Miles's collar and shouted angrily, it was you who brought me into this industry. It was you who told me to defend the people's right to know and to break the government's blockade of information, but what are you doing now? Not only do you sell information for money, but you also help the government block information for money. You have betrayed your own ideals. Who said that freedom fighters must live in poverty? Miles retorted loudly, why can those hateful dictators enjoy a wealthy life, but we, the fighters defending freedom, have to be content with poverty? This is unfair. Enough. I don't have time to listen to your ideological disputes. Jia Ying interrupted their argument directly and said to Sky, it's your choice whether to go to the hospital for an appraisal. Sky, who was furious, rushed into the bedroom and changed his clothes without saying a word. Let's go. Seeing this, Calvin happily followed his daughter, but before leaving, he ran back and punched Miles again. Boy, dare you bother my daughter again, I'll break every bone in your body. Jia Ying ignored the two foolish men and followed her daughter. Daisy, honey, wait for me. Calvin hurriedly caught up. Gordon was the only one left in the apartment. He shook his head and sighed, what a happy family. With that, he activated his superpowers and disappeared. Miles watched the scene in confusion. Oh my god. A superpower? He had been stunned by the punch and hadn't noticed Gordon using his powers to teleport to the phone to stop Sky. Now, Gordon was using his superpowers right in front of him, as if afraid he wouldn't see. He's a superpower. Miles suddenly became excited, as if forgetting the pain in his body, and muttered to himself, yes, he must be a superpower. I'm rich this time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197. You'll know who's following us soon. New Orleans Central Hospital, Laboratory Department. It was late at night, but in the world of capital, anyone willing to pay will be willing to serve. Jia Ying, Calvin, and their daughter, Sky, each took a sample and then paid for an expedited service, waiting directly at the laboratory entrance for the results. Daisy, your real name is Daisy, Daisy Johnson. The family sat on chairs outside the laboratory. Calvin, overcome with excitement, muttered to his daughter, my name is Carl Johnson. That was my original name, but I changed it to Calvin Zabo to avoid being tracked. Tracking? What tracking? Sky demanded immediately. Who's tracking you? She still couldn't believe it. If the gray-haired man could be her father, then the young woman next to him looked younger than she was. How could she be her mother? You'll know who's tracking us right away. Jia Ying folded her arms over her chest and sneered, your good boyfriend will definitely not miss the opportunity to make a fortune. What do you mean? Sky asked, puzzled. Daisy, we'll tell you the details later. Calvin wasn't worried about his safety. With Gordon here, reinforcements could be called in at any time. Now all he had to do was wait for the test results and lay the facts before his daughter. They'd come to the New Orleans hospital because they couldn't let his daughter suspect they'd arranged this. After all, after not seeing each other for over 20 years, any reasonable adult would be suspicious of someone suddenly claiming to be their parents. Only by laying the facts before his daughter could he dispel her doubts. Then, he could explain what had happened over the years and take time to cultivate a bond. Calvin had no idea his wife had joined SHIELD, and even if he had, he wouldn't have objected, for he loved her so deeply. It could be said that Calvin had lived his life for his wife all these years. Even if she had joined a terrorist organization, let alone a legitimate, official organization, Calvin would have supported her unconditionally. In the plot of Agents of SHIELD, if his daughter hadn't chosen her side first, Calvin, caught on the middle and witnessing Jia Ying's madness, might not have betrayed his wife. Thanks to the generous payment, the lab doctor was incredibly dedicated, producing the test report in less than 3 hours. Congratulations, sir and madam. This beautiful young lady is indeed your daughter. The doctor glanced at the noticeably younger Jia Ying in surprise. If only Jia Ying and Sky had come for the test, he would have doubted Sky's identity. However, Calvin and Sky had also confirmed a 99.99% paternity test. Sky immediately snatched the report and saw the 2 lines of 99.99% at the conclusion, confirming that the man and woman before her were indeed her parents. She couldn't contain her excitement. Although the previous meeting had been far from harmonious, the reality was clear, leaving Sky thrilled. After all, she had spent over 20 years searching for her biological parents. Yes, we are your father and mother, Calvin, equally excited, rubbed his hands together. He longed to hug his daughter, but was afraid to be abrupt. Let's talk about it when we get back. Jia Ying turned her gaze toward the stairs at the end of the hallway and saw the fake captain in his tracksuit. Miles Layton, upon seeing the psychic, immediately recalled a bounty posted online by Valentina de la Fontaine. Anyone who provides information regarding superhumans and aliens, and whose information is ultimately verified, will receive a $1 million reward. P.S. Practitioners of the exorcism sword technique are excluded. This bounty bears the seals of the Pentagon, the White House, and even Congress, signifying the federal government's backing. This isn't an American invention, of course. Powerful nations now offer similar rewards to encourage their citizens to come forward. For a mere $1 million, the US isn't losing out on information about a superhuman, because even if they recruit just one superhuman, the money isn't wasted, and sometimes they can even catch a whole bunch of them, bringing down the dregs along with the dregs. So, after receiving Miles' tip, the intelligence team immediately contacted the fake captain, who hadn't returned to base in New Orleans, and asked him to continue the contact. The fake captain was delighted to find another superhuman, as it meant a boost to America's strength. Seeing that Jia Ying had spotted him, the fake captain dropped his cover and approached openly. Sir, Mom, good evening. The fake captain's gaze casually flicked to Gordon, who leaned against the wall nearby. According to the intelligence, this was the target whose superpowers had been revealed. Oh my God, Steve Rogers. Sky, now known as Daisy, covered her mouth with her hand, her face filled with surprise. Although she was born in Funan Province, she was brought to America by Hydra before she was even a year old. She attended school there and, like many American children, naturally idolized Captain America. Seeing the woman's undisguised surprise, the fake captain gained confidence in further contact. Her admiration was a sign that she had embraced the American spirit. Is today my lucky day? Daisy said cheerfully. I just reunited with my parents, and I saw Captain America again. You really need to refresh your mind, Jia Ying said coldly, shattering her illusions. Aren't you curious about why he came here? Daisy's smile froze, and she immediately thought of her ex-boyfriend, Miles. Damn it. He leaked information again. As a member of the Rising Tide organization, Daisy was perhaps one of the few hackers who truly believed in the principle of freedom of information. While other hackers profited from the information they collected, Daisy insisted on living in a dilapidated RV. Despite her advanced hacking skills, she only wanted to find her biological parents. Therefore, she was particularly angry at Miles for so carelessly leaking information. I'm sorry, I don't know who provided the information. The fake captain quickly eased the atmosphere and apologized sincerely. I apologize if I violated your privacy. He then took out a business card and handed it over. It's late now, not a good time to chat. The fake captain smiled warmly. If you're willing to share your stories with me, I'm always at your service. With that, he turned and left. As Captain America, the fake captain has his own boundaries and style of doing things. Although Valentina couldn't learn it, she didn't mind him continuing with his style. Their Captain America was originally a positive character. The expected battle didn't happen, so Jia Ying had to temporarily change her plan. Let's go to the hotel first, Calvin excitedly said to his daughter, Daisy, I'll tell you everything that happened over the years. Jia Ying turned around and winked at Gordon. Gordon understood, walked to the bathroom next door, and then used his ability to disappear in a flash. I went into the small dark room for a while to finish the previous chapter. I wasted a lot of time revising it. If I didn't finish it, I felt like something was wrong, and it affected my ability to continue writing. Chapter 198. Where is Cheofen? Cheofen is in the sanctuary of the Holy of Holies in New York. In New York, At the headquarters of Valentina de La Fontaine's intelligence organization, a team of intelligence officers was closely monitoring the suspected superpower identified by Miles Gordon. They pulled up all the surveillance footage from New Orleans Central Hospital, but only saw Gordon enter the bathroom and never emerge. They searched the entire hospital's surveillance system, but couldn't find him. He's disappeared again. Interesting. 4 of them together. Valentina rushed to the base upon receiving the news. While SWORD's work was important, it was an organization solely controlled by America and held the nation's hope, so Valentina spent most of her time there. The other deputy directors shared the same sentiment. No matter how good SWORD was, it had become an international organization. Everything had to be negotiated among 5 nations, and any benefits had to be shared among them. It was incredibly troublesome. They preferred their own organization to be more convenient. They thought Lin Hao was just as good, holding the title of director, but only commanding personnel assigned by the SWORD. Director Lin was eager to distract them so he could undermine SWORD. Sir, surveillance throughout New Orleans hasn't detected the target, the intelligence officer at the screen reported. It's okay, aren't there still 3 people left? Valentina smiled, then turned to ask her other subordinates, have you found any information on these 3 people? The man's name is Carl Johnson, 58 years old, born in Trenton, New Jersey, and a pharmacist. He went to China 24 years ago, and his subsequent information is missing. The woman's name is Sky, and her information shows she's an orphan. Strangely, her adoptive father is a former SHIELD agent. Interesting. Sensing a conspiracy, Valentina immediately called the American agent who remained at SWORD. Find me some information. SHIELD's legacy had been inherited by SWORD, and as SWORD's deputy director, she naturally had the authority to access files with a lower security level. Director, access is unavailable, the American agent remaining in SWOR immediately replied. The confidentiality level is as high as level 10. Director Lin's authorization is required. Valentina was silent for a moment, then smiled. Such a high confidentiality level speaks volumes. A skilled agent doesn't necessarily need to see actual intelligence records, they can analyze what they're looking for through subtle clues. Where's the other young woman? Valentina continued to question her subordinate. No, there's no information at all, not even entry records, the subordinate quickly replied. But she just had a paternity test at New Orleans Central Hospital, confirming her mother-daughter relationship with Sky. Haha, at least 2 transcendents. Valentina immediately realized. Jia Ying, who looked younger, actually had a 22-year-old daughter. This couldn't be due to her lack of upbringing, she was most likely a transcendent as well. So, she made a quick decision, send more personnel over there. They're likely a transcendent group. In New Orleans, a family who had checked into the hotel's penthouse suite was chatting, mostly Calvin talking, while Daisy and Jia Ying listened quietly. Daisy was curious, but Jia Ying didn't care. 24 years ago, I opened a clinic in Funan Province, China, and met your mother there. We fell in love and gave birth to you. 21 years ago, when you weren't even a year old, SHIELD suddenly broke into your mother's village, killed everyone in the village, and took your mother away. In order to save your mother, I had no choice but to hand you over to someone I could trust. I didn't expect you to end up being taken to America by SHIELD agents. When I found your mother, her internal organs had been ripped out and her blood drained. They threw your mother into a stinking ditch like a piece of garbage. From that moment on, I swore to make my enemies pay. After hearing this, Daisy, tears welling in her eyes, looked at her mother and said hesitantly, You are now. This is your mother's peculiarity, Daisy. You are special too, Calvin said excitedly. I believe you inherited your mother's talent and will definitely gain magical powers. Jia Ying didn't tell him that the Inhumans were Kree experiments, leading Calvin to still worship the blue angels that fell from the sky, believing their superpowers to be a gift. You want to know why I'm still alive? Jia Ying said coldly. Why do you look younger than you? If you want to know the answer, I'll tell you when I get home in 2 days. Yes, we have to go home, Calvin said excitedly. We found Daisy. We should go back to Funan. My clinic is still there, and we can continue to operate. Our family will live together forever. Looking at his daughter, he happily said, You should learn Chinese so you can make more friends. After finding his daughter, Calvin's only goal in life was revenge on Daniel Whitehall. This goal was actually not difficult to achieve, find him and kill him. In the original story, if Calvin hadn't been using Whitehall to find the Kree's underground city, he would have killed Whitehall long ago. The family chatted for several hours until it was already 9 o'clock in the morning. Just as Calvin was about to ask Gordon to return and take them away, Valentina showed up uninvited. Hearing a knock on the door, Jia Ying smiled knowingly. Why couldn't they chat anywhere? He'd deliberately stayed in New Orleans, waiting for Valentina to take the bait. Mr. Johnson, and this unknown lady, can we chat? She walked straight in, a familiar smile on her face, a faint warmth. Jia Ying waved, motioning the wary Calvin to step back. So, you represent the American government? At Jia Ying's blunt response, Valentina smiled knowingly. I like talking to intelligent people, it saves everyone time. It seems you already understand our uniqueness. Jia Ying sat on the sofa, legs crossed, looking quite calm. She seemed unaware that the hotel had been sealed off by armed men, and that an armed action team was waiting in the hallway outside. Valentina walked over to the sofa across from her and sat down, smiling. Strictly speaking, I've only confirmed the uniqueness of you and the gentleman who disappeared into the restroom. So you want to know why we're so unique? Jia Ying asked with a smile. You want to know if there are other extraordinary people behind us? Like I told you, I like talking to smart people. Valentina's smile now had a touch more warmth. Want to know the answer? Jia Ying suddenly stood up and walked towards the door, saying, then please give us a ride. No problem. Where are we going? Although surprised by her directness, Valentina was confident that she could control the situation. Besides, even if there were problems, she could contact a group of extraordinary people. As long as she could obtain information about them, Valentina was not afraid of taking risks, even sacrifice. New York, Greenwich Village, Bleecker Street, Jia Ying said bluntly, almost giving the address. Valentina, who had risen to chase after her, tapped the communication watch on her wrist. The operatives in the hallway outside immediately retreated and disappeared, and the armed personnel throughout the hotel building retreated into their rooms. The transport plane is ready. Don't forget to pay for our room. Glad to help. Chapter 199 Ancient One feels the breath of death. While the Fey captain was meeting the magical girl, Lin Hao, having learned of the situation, did two things. Besides having Jia Ying bring her husband to find their daughter, he also had the SHIE send an invitation to NYU Langone Hospital. It was night in America when the invitation was sent, but daytime in the Far East. By the time Jia Ying and Valentina de La Fontaine boarded their flight to New York, it was already daytime in the city. Meanwhile, Stephen Strange had just woken from his soft bed. Ever since he cured Tony Stark, Stephen had become famous. Although the New York Medical Association refused to make an exception and allow Stephen to end his 7-year internship early, wealthy New Yorkers, led by Tony, invited Stephen to join their medical advisory teams. Indeed, the lives of the rich are simple, unpretentious, and monotonous. While the poor can't even afford medical treatment, the wealthy can afford a medical advisory team sufficient to support an entire hospital. However, renowned doctors are often limited, a resource infinitely more scarce than that of celebrities, so they are forced to share. Fortunately, the wealthy, with regular care from their primary care physicians, are less likely to develop serious or acute illnesses. This allows renowned doctors to continue working at their own hospitals, though they are required to be present immediately when their employers have concerns. As a rising star in the field, Stephen, young, steady, and skilled, has become the exclusive physician of several wealthy individuals. Although his services are limited, the wealthy individuals pay him substantial consulting fees. Dr. Stephen has finally moved out of his old, rundown apartment and into a luxurious, high-rise apartment, where he wears designer clothes and clothing. He chats and chats with wealthy businessmen, socializing with countless people, living a life of success. However, while his career has been successful, his romantic life has suffered. Christine Palmer, Stephen's girlfriend who helped him through hard times, finds him gradually lost in the financial whirlwind, having forgotten the oath he swore to the Red Cross. This led to a serious clash of values between the two. As an independent woman, Christine refused to move into Stephen's luxury apartment and declined his letter of recommendation to wealthy clients, choosing instead to endure the long internship. Christine, why? The first thing Stephen did upon waking was call his girlfriend again, trying to salvage the relationship. Why were you willing to stay with me when I was broke, but now that I'm rich, you're leaving me? Stephen, don't you understand yet? Christine felt both hurt and helpless, as if she still didn't understand her grievance. "You're not the same person anymore. Maybe you've always been this way, and I just didn't realize it, Steven. Our values no longer align. We're not destined to be together." With that, she hung up. Fuck, Steven, unable to understand women's minds, threw his phone down and paced angrily around the luxurious living room. 10 minutes later, the apartment's phone rang. "Hey, man, why isn't your phone working?" It was his assistant and agent. In the world of capital, famous doctors, like celebrities and renowned lawyers, all have their own agents. These are scarce social resources, and capital investment can unlock even greater wealth, a win-win situation. After all, there's always someone who'll pay the bill. "What's up?" an irritated Steven asked directly. "A wealthy man from the East has specifically requested your services. He says he's a fan of Iron Man and trusts Tony Stark's choices." The agent smiled. "He's already deposited $1 million, and it's just a down payment." Steven's mood immediately brightened. "Where is he? When? Arrange a car for me. You can't get there unless your car can cross the Pacific," the agent quipped. "He's in Paris, the East, but his private jet has already landed at LaGuardia Airport." "Well, I guess I can relax abroad," Steven thought. It was a good idea. He didn't have any surgeries scheduled for the next few days. Due to the arrogance of the medical association, he hadn't been able to complete his internship early and obtain his full license, leaving him unable to perform surgeries from hospitals. Only the wealthy who trusted his skills wouldn't care. Steven quickly drove to the airport and boarded the private jet of a wealthy Eastern tycoon. Just as the plane took off, the Ancient One, far away in Kamartaj, opened her eyes from her meditation. Damn it, she immediately opened a dimensional portal, connecting to the skies above New York, attempting to drag the plane into a mirror dimension and, through magic, create a memory of Steven having traveled to the East. Unfortunately, as soon as she stepped out of the portal, she was transported into pure white space. Waiting there, Wanda immediately cast a spell, locking her limbs. Lin Hao transformed into a Super Saiyan, and a golden dragon charged towards the bald old nun. A Kagan wave exploded, but the old nun vanished. However, this space was created by Zora, who could control every change within it. He immediately called out to Lin Hao, "Master, above you." Simultaneously, two white, humanoid spheres suddenly appeared beside the Ancient One. Their arms and legs softened and extended, tightly binding her, interrupting her spell. Lin Hao leaped up and smashed his fist into the old nun's head. The old nun vanished once more. No, it should be said that she repositioned Lin Hao and the two white tools. The next moment, Lin Hao's limbs and body were bound by Sitorak's crimson chains. Countless crimson bolts, like magma, suddenly appeared above him. These thunders of Basset were so powerful that even Thanos, the Eternal Titan, had to avoid their blast. "Brother," Wanda immediately cast a golden red light shield covered in runes above Lin Hao's head. The shield shattered, transforming the countless falling bolts into pale green butterflies. In the distance, the Ancient One suddenly smiled. In the blink of an eye, she assumed control of Wanda's Hog's ancient lord magic, turning her gun to direct countless green butterflies towards Lin Hao. These butterflies appeared harmless, but they directly affected the enemy's mind, temporarily knocking even Thanos unconscious. Lin Hao, possessing the power of time, recovered even faster, instantly returning to his previous state and clearing all control abilities. "Use the magic I taught you," Lin Hao shouted at Wanda. Wanda took a deep breath, calming herself, and gradually entering combat mode. She was only 20 years old at the time. She had trained extensively, but had few opportunities for actual combat, especially lacking experience against a master like the Ancient One. With her heart completely focused on Lin Hao, she was inevitably at a loss as to what to do. Realizing she was holding Lin back, a wave of resentment welled up within her. "I can't hold you back. I have to help you," Wanda encouraged herself. "Come on, Wanda, you're strong too. You can do this." The short but intense first round concluded. Lin Hao realized that his Super Saiyan 1 state, activated by his inherent strength, was no match for the bald old nun, so he used the power of time again to intercept the Super Saiyan 4 state from the future branch. Sensing Lin Hao's suddenly stronger aura, the Ancient One's expression was solemn. This young man truly held a secret. 2 years ago, he had relied on the spear of Imhotep to pose a threat, but now, his own strength alone posed a threat to her. "I feel like it's not good to write the female Ancient One too weak," Even though she really is weak in the movie, not even as strong as Strange showed when he fought Thanos. I think it's probably a budget issue. If there's not enough money, the special effects won't be good enough, haha. Chapter 200 Dark-Skinned Ancient One. Lin Hao, transformed into Super Saiyan 4, dashed forward, his body enveloped in a crimson aura, his speed so rapid it seemed like teleportation. But even teleportation couldn't reach the Ancient One, a master of spatial transformation magic. The bald old nun was like a slippery loach. No matter how hard she tried, she always slipped away. It was as if she knew her defense was weak and deliberately avoided contact. Having gained distance, the Ancient One suddenly raised his hands, assuming the pose of thousand-armed Guanyin, and unleashed Akin form, creating countless clones. These clones were all physical, not illusions. Countless bald old nuns began casting different spells: Satorak's Crimson Chains, Bozart's Thunder, a Crimson Waterfall, and Vadam's Wind, a storm mingled with multiple Vishanti swords, all charging towards Lin Hao. The funds are burning. Wanda, observing this, immediately waved her hands, creating a sea of fire. A sea of fire erupted without a single breath of wind. Winged flaming snakes emerged from the blazing flames, swooping down upon the surrounding Ancient One clones. The fiery curse is a powerful black magic, unleashing a fiery flame that intensifies, transforming into ferocious beasts or monsters, relentlessly pursuing anything flammable. Ancient One frowned at the unprecedented magic, her clones continually engulfed by the flames. The next moment, the besieged Lin Hao erupted in a burst of golden energy, and a golden dragon swirled around him, deflecting all attacks. A layer of purple-red lightning suddenly crept up the dragon's body, its domineering haki entwined with its dragon-shaped Kigen. The two powerful forces shook the surrounding white space. His observation haki emanated, anticipating the location reported by Arnim's aura and sending out a Kigen wave. Ancient One, possessing the power of time, could also see into the future, so the location predicted by his observation haki wasn't always accurate. However, as Zora was the creator of this white space and controlled all information flow within it, his prediction was undeniable. Because no matter how the Ancient One shifted space, it would always occupy the same position afterward. He chose to hold on, casting the Seraphim Shield to envelop himself. However, the energy waves emitted by Super Saiyan 1 were enough to destroy a planet, let alone Super Saiyan 4. Wrapped in a majestic haki, it could easily crush a dimensional demon. Even if the Ancient One borrowed all of Seraphim's power, it would be futile. The air mass exploded, violet-red lightning raged, and the entire pure white space trembled violently. Zora had to increase his energy output to maintain his position. Waves of shockwaves spread out in all directions. Lin Hao and Wanda each used apparition to hide far away, while Zora simply adjusted the parameters and slipped into a narrow spatial crack, dodging the incoming shockwave. When the smoke cleared, the violet-red lightning receded, and the white ground cracked. Zora immediately repaired it. A black salted egg appeared before Lin Hao and Wanda. The old nun's skin had changed, her pale skin darkening to black, her lips a strange red. Her yellow robes were stained with a vibrant purple, shimmering and shimmering, a vibrant riot of color. "Wow, your new skin is quite nice," Lin Hao teased. "How much did you pay for it?" Floating in the air, Ancient One sized Lin Hao up with a complex expression. "You're truly dangerous." "Don't you have any other lines?" Lin Hao scoffed. "You're not worthy of that line now, because someone who says it must possess absolute power. I'm curious, why do you think you can win?" Ancient One had almost grasped what Lin Hao and Zheng Xian were up to, but precisely because she knew, her disbelief was even greater. Man conquers nature was merely a slogan. Ancient One knew the powerful beings hidden within this universe, and even more so, what existed beyond the multiverse. She didn't believe Lin Hao and Zheng Xian could defeat them. The bald old nun was also dissatisfied with her fate as a mere tool. With the power to view timelines and penetrate the multiverse, she knew exactly how powerful Ancient Ones and other universes were. She was at best a lackey of the Single Eternal, while the Ancient Ones of other universes were the twin red sticks of the Multiverse Eternal. The Single Eternal was merely a cell within the Multiverse Eternal, one of countless similar cells. The bald old nun, having seen the future, found herself unable to accept the fact that her screen time was limited to just a few dozen minutes, a mere tool used to teach Strange's skills. Such thoughts were natural. After all, this was the nun version of the Ancient One who had drawn upon the power of the Dark Dimension to prolong his life. Yet, despite the difficulty, She lacked the courage to defy to defy the cosmic consciousness. Hence her complex feelings towards Lin Hao and Zheng Xian. Having roughly guessed their goals, the Ancient One actually harbored the hope that they would succeed, a truly treasonous thought. However, once the thought was born, it could no longer be quenched, like a weed growing in her heart that could never be completely plucked out. Hearing Ancient One's words, Lin Hao suddenly sensed a subtle shift in her mindset and sneered, "What? You want to be a traitor? Or are you just sitting on the fence, waiting for a good price?" Then, a sudden realization hit him. "No wonder you didn't run away. You're trying to gauge my worth." Lin Hao instantly understood why she felt this way. A proud and powerful being who had lived for centuries, only to discover her fate was sealed, her existence worth only a few minutes of transmission. How could someone who would sacrifice her principles to survive accept such a fate? "I'm sorry, I don't believe you can succeed." Ancient One's attitude returned to a firm tone. Or perhaps it was more accurate to say she wanted to see how much more confidence Lin Hao could display, so she'd resolved to change her stance. Floating in the air, Ancient One suddenly raised her hands, fingers pressed together, forming a triangle, and placed it in front of her forehead. A chaotic mass of purple energy converged within the triangle, emitting a beam as thick as a bucket. This energy beam, carrying an all-consuming dark aura, struck the pure white ground, dissolving the very foundations of the space. "Wanda, you skirmish, I'll charge head-on," Lin Hao declared, charging towards the blackened old nun in the air. A surge of red air suddenly erupted, and with swung fists, he shattered the purple energy beams. Ignoring the relentless onslaught of black blades, he advanced upon the Ancient One. His fists, imbued with immense power, struck the Ancient One's abdomen, tearing her apart. However, the power of the dark dimension was constantly replenishing, instantly reshaping her form. "Avada, eat the big melon." Green light surged from Wanda's palm, shooting towards the Ancient One. Facing the green beam, the Ancient One's eyes glazed for a moment, his transparent soul seemingly struggling to emerge from his body. However, with 400 or 500 years of cultivation, the Ancient One's spiritual strength was far greater than his physical strength. If the bald old nun's body was so fragile that a fall from a building could kill her, then her soul could probably withstand an intercontinental missile. The transparent soul swayed briefly under the green light before finally returning to its body. Wanda, seeing this, looked disheartened. "Don't give up, keep going," Lin Hao shouted. "Don't let her recover." As he spoke, his fists never stopped. The old nun's body felt like paper, constantly being smashed by Lin Hao. Encouraged, Wanda began to chew on the melon. Layers of green light washed over the old nun's soul. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.